Alright, last left off. I didn't realize I had to go to 1.5. So we're gonna do 1.5. I get content. Thing. The city moved incredibly fast. I wonder if it was even morning at all. Some bright-eyed interior, bright-eyed and bushy tail. Familiar word that awoke him reminded me of rock slide. Danny the monstrous sound was the engine of a motor. His neighbor was leaving for work. So determined when night ended and morning began. The town's urbanization was synonymous with insomnia. Sluggishly lifted himself off the floor. Found himself staring to survey his surroundings out of habit before deciding better of it and made his way to the washroom. Where he poured himself a cup of water and slowly gulped it down. Relegated to well water until recently, he found convenient. Please was definitely the word to best describe how he felt. Civilizations about erasing inconveniences through optimization. Reduction in labor in our daily lives. Aoko had taught him that while the essentials were easier than ever to get their hands on, life itself was growing more and more. So too was it his duty to just... As a distant relative of Sojiro's father, Mr. Koga had taken Sojiro in, even though the boy had been a little more than I call that. Mr. Koga had helped him get registered at school and find an apartment to leave. But he had insisted that Sojiro handle his residence card and register his change of address by himself. The series of procedures proved exceedingly difficult for Sojiro, but knowing that this was part of his DC life, he did his best to complete it diligently. I mean, a reputation for being a stickler for the rules. City officers not that bad. First thing Sojiro learned after beginning his life in the city. 2 weeks had elapsed since he left the countryside. As easy as living alone made him feel, well, he could make it work. You're spoken of. Absolutely right about how practical they're. Sojiro continued down the hard yet surprisingly walkable path. For jogging, he jogged to the park to pass the time. Exercise like this offered lessons for Sojiro to learn. Passing person was a new face to look at. The young man who greeted him. A young worker with his eyes on the ground. On the bench surrounded by birds. All in familiar sights to Sojiro. As of this city, he labored to understand its rules. They're complex, simple, completely meaningless. Compared mountain life, which only dealt with nature, city life felt one with way too many. One could argue that such an environment was toxic for some. Life was a string of unsettling moments. Amongst all their rules they sincerely admired. Wanted the city to follow their own various forms of profit and love. One only needed money to get the bare essentials to survive the city was a comforting thought.
Yeah, so simple na
Hey,
話
Kenobi.
じゃねえよ。
Backwards that.
金なんてものはあくまで記号で、本当に大事なのは別にあんだからさ。所詮は流動する肩たたき券と変わんねえっつうが、別に1万円札食ってもうまくねえっつうが。ともかく金で真心は買えねえじゃん。
Thank you, Kenobi.
じゃねえよ、ざけんなよ。俺は悲しいよ。ついこの間まで4000ポッチの日当に鹿みたいに首かしげていた正直者がくったらねえ皿洗いをしながら、まあ世の中金だよね。 なんてボソッと言わないでくれっつうの。
Major malfunction.
いや、貨幣制度は素晴らしいと思う。正直物々交換の限界を感じた。それより木の実、ふざけてるとそれ落とすぞ。
えっておお、やべやべ、次割ったら今度こそ俺の頭が割られちまうからな。忠告サンキュー。それで相談事？何？もしかして金？
そうなんだ。とりあえずお金は大事で、たくさんあるに越したことはないって痛感した。なんで、できればもうちょっと働きたい。
マジ？マシンみたいに皿洗いをこなしながら夢のないこと言わないでほしいな。世の中金じゃねえって言ったばかりじゃんか。やっぱラブじゃんか。
Typo, no.
冷たくないですかね。冬場の皿洗いって割り合わねえよとこの上ねえよな。
そりゃ冷たいけど、これぐらいは我慢しないと。山の水は冷たいっていうより痛かったし。
氷水と同じにすんな野生児。しかしあれだね、呆れた順能力、いや忍耐力っつうの。レジ打ちすらできなかった新人がよ、たった4日でしみったれた飯屋の社畜になっちまうなんて、やっぱ世の中金ってことかね。資本主義ってすげえ。
So just a changed man once he got that dollar bill in his hands.
うるせえぞバカバイト。文句あんならやめちまえ。うちにはごくつぶしにくれてやる小遣いはねえ。
Wait, so chopsticks flew at them like a storm. This mess of a Chinese restaurant manager was a stubborn man who was willing to let minors work for him and then shy from violence. Even though it was directed at the son of a lifelong friend. What an asshole. I sure felt that this is what Sparta must have been like.
ほら怒られた。任されたことはきちんとやらないと。
け、優等生。こっちは何かと反抗したい年頃だっつもん。まあいいや、話は変わるんだけどよ。しずき夜に出歩くタイプ？それかチャリンコで出張る趣味？いやまあどっちかでいいんだけど。
バイトの帰りはほとんど夜になるけど、そういう話じゃないんだよな。夜の散歩も遠出も趣味じゃないけど、それが？
いや何さ、しずき引っ越してきたばかりだって言うからよ。俺らが言うのもなんだけど、うちちょい治安が悪いってのが、年間10人くらい通り魔事件っての、そういうの起きてっから。
通り魔ってなんだ？
そっからかよ。なんだほら、カバン強盗でもないか。辻切りってのが近いのか。住宅街とかまだ森が残ってる方によく出会う。
What kind of analogy is that, Konami?
そういうおかしいのが。なんで、あんまり夜遅くは出歩くなよな。三崎岡の公園とか有名な怪奇スポットだから。通り魔の犯人は口裂け女だったって話知らねえか？
ごめん。まずその口裂け女ってのがわからない。
階段だよ。口が耳まで裂けてるってやつ。今じゃさすがに時代遅れだけどよ。なんだっけ？深夜の道にな、コート姿の女が待ち伏せていて、私、綺麗とか聞いてくるんだ。で、綺麗って言っても、いまいちって言っても家まで追っかけられて殺されるの。
See how the Konomi's pretty good at telling horror stories. I see how that got translated.
女の少年はおっかねえっつうか、アメコミの怪人っぽいっつうか。
いや、それ本気で怖くないか？家まで上がってくるのか？その女の人。
窓から入ってくるらしいぜ。ガサガサとこうゴキブリみたい。ギャーのクソガキが厨房でその4文字は禁止だってんだろ。殺すぞ。
The back of Konomi's head exploded in pain with the impact of his boss's frying pan! Oh no. Sojourner's reminded of just how dangerous this town could be.
殺すってバカじゃねえの。普通そっちの方が禁止用語じゃねえの。ここレストランなんだしさ。いや、あんまうまくねえけど。
木の実、頭大丈夫か？
え？ああ、心配無用。俺なんだか頑丈さには定評があるから。
Real thick skull.
ついて。ともかく、そういうわけなんで夜の暗がりは気をつけるぞなもし。しずき、見るからにかもそうな顔してるし。
ありがとう。ところで、年間10人というのは多い
Is
方
that a
なの？
lot?
知んねえよ。少なくはないだろうけど、多い方でもないんじゃねえか。ま、うちの通り魔事件が他に比べて厄介なのは、まだ犯人が見つかってないってことだからね。
He laughed cheerfully. Konomi's power trying to take the edge off his story, but the noble intention of his laugh was completely lost to Sojiro. The friendly warning was equally futile. Futile. Sojiro simply pressed Konomi was able to laugh it off. Ahead or behind, Sojiro proceeded through the dimly lit street when suddenly... He turned to face a probable sound. Oh. Something stabbed her in the head and fell to the floor. Frowned. Bird had apparently fallen into a telephone pole before landing on his head. It started and cleaned itself off and flew away. Falling to the bird. Just for escape thereafter. Anything he had experienced in his life up till now. Council could have seen the incident as unlucky, ominous, and sinister. And Sojiro just thought and went on with his business. Yeah, that was fucking weird. Understand. What might have been a first for him was surely an everyday occurrence for these city folk.
たったいまー。ねえ、アリス帰ってる？教会から帰るとき、商店街でお土産もらっちゃった。伊勢屋のせんべい、一緒に食べない？
Oh boy, rice crackers. The voice reverberated to the foyer, died in the colors. 5 in the afternoon, when Aoko, still in her school uniform, cheerfully returned home. She had finished her student council duties and attended her monthly meeting with the church.
おかえりなさい。その様子なら何事もなく終わったみたいね、青子。
Coming from the second contrast with Aoko and her boundless energy, a considerably calmer girl descended from above.
難癖はつけられたけど滞りなく。うちの問題はうちの問題だから、今回も手は出さないって方向でまとまったわ。それでいいのよね、アリス。ええ。猫の手なら借りたいけど、あの人たちの手は信用ならないし。いつも通り、後処理だけお願いしましょう。賛成。後ろからバッサリやられかねないしね。だいたい、私もあんたも背中を気にして没頭できるからじゃないし。私はできるけど。青子は単に、まだそれほどの余裕がないだけでしょ。うん。
With the graceful sounds of her steps, Alice entered the foyer. She did, Aoko's eyes were directed towards the skylight above.
ガラス、曇ってるわね。そのことで話があるわ。今日の課題が終わったらだけど。青子、体の調子は？疲れているなら休みを入れてもいいけど。え？何よ、気味悪いな。気遣いされることなんてないってば。いつも通りの一日だったし。そんな疲れた顔してる？私。
Today's were a breeze. At a glance, the school life might have seemed almost idyllic. A lot of Sono-G shadows here. Though the more she thought about it, some headache-inducing incidents might have stood out here and there. To your introspection, Aoko might have recognized the signs of her own mental fatigue, but doing so would have further added to her.
ストップ。なんで帰ってきてまであんなののことで疲れなくちゃいけないんだ、私。今日の課題って初歩のウィッシュでしょ？問題ないわ。すぐ始めましょう。今日はなんか勢いでうまくいきそうな気もするし。
Aoko focused on spreading her strength. Upstairs with Gus.
どうしたのよ？アリスの部屋でやるんじゃないの？
Dressed Alice nodded in silent, slight satisfaction.
それで、伊勢屋のせんべいって今日の？
Oh my crackers. Freshly baked treats Aoko was holding. We. The end lesson took place after Alice had a cup of tea. For apprentice like Aoko, Alice Kuanji was the kind of roommate and teacher that was hard to come by. She insisted that Aoko rest to preserve her health. Aoko had no choice but to comply. Lesson was over after 2 hours, so the two finished the dinner they had prepared and decided to change of venue for where they would spend the last hours of the day. The sunroom was next to the drawing room in the east wing of the residence and offered a view of the beautiful grounds. Proud Koanchi's estate's luxurious sunroom featured furnishings on par with those in the splendid drawing room. Now,
来年の夏はジャングルね。この分だと。ねえアリス、庭掃除専用のプロイとかいないの？
I took a step into the sunroom towards.
探せばいるかもしれないけど、少し手間ね。
Along with roommate joke, Alice made to sit in her chair. Ooh, bonbons. Outside of the box of chocolates on the table. Lovely eyes narrowed in a frown.
何よ、言っとくけど、今日の失敗は半分アリスのせいよ。おせんべいで気が緩んだのが敗因っていうか、そりゃウィッシュのつもりがガンドになっちゃったのは我ながら攻撃的すぎると思うけど。
Frank it.
6個減ってるわ。え？なんだ、そっちのことか。
Ako's eyes stared intently at the box of chocolates. You could search the world and never find a finer selection of chocolates. The brand was Sixpence Songs, apparently.
で、鏡の話をするんだっけ？あれ、今洋館モードから岬モードになってるんでしょ？ええ。ここの管理はおざなりになるけど、岬市だけに切り替えたわ。それが昨日から曇り出している。少しずつだけど、確実に包囲されてるわね。包囲って数が増えたってこと？捕捉していた1名はもちろん、他にもう2名ほど不審者を目撃済み。都市部に1、郊外の森に2ね。はあ、
んたの目撃談は当てになるからな。で、うるさいのはどっち？
森の方。捕捉中だけど、こっちの目に気づいているみたい。なかなか誘いに乗ってこないわ。
Alice with her fishing lure is like, come on, take the bite. Ooh.
そっか。じゃあ今夜仕掛ける。
After tonight, tradition that would change the course of her life forever. No overstatement to say that this was the roll of a dice that was decided whether she had the moxie to survive the experience of jumping out of a plane with a torn parachute. Aoko swallowed her hesitation and fear for a little. It was anniversary night. She declared that she had made up her mind, and that from time on she would not waver. Alice welcomed her roommate's strength with the barest hint of her. For the same motivations as her, Alice was ultimately inspired by Aoko's result. Purpose more pleased. All in all, taking the better part of a year, but finally Aoko had stepped out of Alice's shadow. Partners now share the same fate. Part Alice had asked for, but a partner nonetheless. Strangers, worlds apart. Eventually, they would battle each other to death using all they had inherited. It was only right they did it on equal. At least for now, cause for celebration over how far Aoko had come.
せっかくだけど、今夜は私一人で十分よ。そんな余裕があるのなら、あなたはもう少し暗示の練習をするべきね。公演はあなたの担当だから、その時は働いてもらうけど。
That's not so much as look at Aoko as she explained her reasons. Scale of the enemies she would face that night. Plans for Aoko. For in only 2 days from now, Aoko Aozaki would be reborn.
はいはい、わかりました。
Aoko finished her tea and stood up from her seat.
お言葉通り、暗示の練習でもやってるわ。一節目は確か、軽く弱く、うまく早く、チクタクチクタク、急げや急げ、よね。
そこは、軽く弱く、うまく早く、急げや急げ、チクタクチクタク、よ。
よ。
気をつけなさい。それだと逆に落ち着かなくなるわ。
そうだったそうだった。じゃ、一つ失礼。
Got a piece of chocolate popped in her mouth. Before leaving Alice alone in silence. Alice stiffened a moment before slamming the box of chocolate shut as if it could serve to scold Aoko for snacking.
「おはようございます。午前0時を確認しました。前回更新より24時間経過。バックアップ開始。レコード送信。周囲の地形をスキャンします。大気成分、窒素異常なし、酸素異常なし、アルゴン異常なし、二酸化炭素異常なし。
I'm glad everything seems nominal.
第5仮説要素異常
Allow the
異常あり。
theoretical factor.
周囲の時空連続体に齟齬を確認。第一種危険物との遭遇と断定。視覚領域を主観から客観に変更。自立回路を予備電源に、計測回路を主電源に変更。カメラを赤外線計測から虚数線計測に変更。 では、これより戦闘行為の記述を開始します。主よ、どうか我が身を守りたまえ。
Aozaki City was a thickly wooded area. However, the development continued unabated. Mother Nature still drew breath in its eyes. Trees have been turned to lumber. Leaves have begun to turn to mulch. Though the birds who curiously tilted their head had moved on, the verdure lived on. Estimate. The time came that the devouring light of civilization became powerful enough to encroach upon nature's mysterious domain. These woods were no exception. The outlying border between Misaki City and Misaki Hills left untouched. Though driven from their nests and dens here, wildlife continued to subsist even today. Returned to the days before man, this was just like any other forest situated next to it. Winter had arrived in the woods, still cut like a razor. The icy air so thick it reached one's bones. Those cheeks stiffened and wisps of breath formed swirls in the air before 1 degree above freezing. Cold snap penetrated every nook and ground through the trees. Saw nobody entry during the day. In winter, it willed the animals to slumber. Still evening air felt like stagnant breath of the link. The forest consumed the moonlight, obscuring the sight of even the closest of precipices, hastening the untimely doom. Noises to be had were the whisperings of the wind and the murmurings of the stream. The immoral darkness stifled any sense of life. The breath of an animal, much that of a person, was drawn to this place. However, in black now of this place skulked within. Tiniest, frailest silhouettes, like a small bow lost in a sea of fog. Trepidatious footsteps echoed throughout the wood. There, exiting the veiled trees, was the unmistakable likeness of a young girl.
To see such great untarnished run away with the spoon. 来たぞ来たぞ。いるぞいるぞ。誰が誰が？誰と誰が？お腹は減ったの？お腹は鳴ったさ。どっちが食べる？どっちも食べる。君は左手、お前は右手。歓迎しないと。感激しないと。何しろようやく楽しいお客。ついでにお腹と脛骨も。せっかくだからよく噛まないと。
Yummy. Thousand of trees left ominously. Nation, illusion, or perhaps something real. Shadows frolicked in time to the girl's pace.
さあさあさあさあ。もっと奥へ、もっと奥へ。ところでダイスは細工済み？お腹の重いローデット。端っこかじったエッジワーク。どうでもいいけど肝心要の6の目だけは出さないように。
Girl knitted her eyebrows. Heard voices and felt the presence of things that should not. Fair enough to frighten the particular girl? Her tightly pursed lips betrayed not a hint of fear. The girl walked of her own volition. Truly felt fear her legs would be frozen. In the trees, perfectly aware of the two humanoid figures stalking her still night air.
見たぞ見たぞ。来るぞ来るぞ。もう諦めろ。もう帰れない。あんなに教えてあげたのに。よそに消えないお前が悪い。
The girl halted her steps. Back from the incoming voices died in turn. Valid brooks suddenly sound like a crackling fire. Then, across the shallow stream, something appeared that should not exist in the city.
こんばんは。話のわかる人はいる？
The girl addressed them calmly. These men with their Glasgow grins creep toward their like two slugs.
そう。ただの墓守。監視だけが仕事なのね。失敗したわ。これなら青子に任せればよかった。
Beneath me, it would have been perfect for Aoko.
ああ。けど。
The one grinning man stood still. The other, shaking violently as if unable to contain himself any longer, turned toward the
青
girl.
子にはまだ荷が重いわね。そんな姿だけど、あなたたちは一人前の魔術師のようだし。
Her black outfit stirred. In her right hand she held a vitreous cat, darker than the deepest night. Two Glasgow men let out a yelp of caution and incoherent fear. It was at this moment that they finally bared their intended
さ
emotion.
ようなら、お客様。きっと一瞬だろうから、お別れだけ言っておくわ。
She shuddered at her words. Mouths, no ears or brains to begin with. For creatures like these, words were redundant. All that existed was the present. Those creatures' fears and hopes were nothing more than an unimaginable ruin. Feeling of foreboding they felt. A spine-chilling miracle that would rip them to pieces not moments from now.
さあ、ごっこ遊びをしましょう。お人形さん。
Her sound sounded like a bell echoing through the white woods. The girl's voice vanquished the frost that gripped the tree.
いやいや、ずいぶん待たされた。
さあ、赤ずきんの登場だ。
Dumb. The curtains opened on diddle diddle, the banquet of the confusion. One slow-mouthed man swooped toward the girl. Fear, the other fled into the woods behind him. Deformed humanoid darted forth, kicking up water as it rushed the girl. Very knew what this feat. Grinning figure had scissors for hand to the demon's heart. It was a wretch who kidnapped children, mercilessly ridding them into pieces.
トゥイードル。
お任せお任せ。
ようやく出番だ。あらよっ
Send into yoomps. Pilgrims bound and rebounded like paddle balls. The animals over 3 feet in length jumped and weaved their way in between the strange creatures before him. The grinning man did not so much as blink. He raised his arms, but merged his coat. His sleeves were not human appendages like you would expect. His fiendish cleavers were only a foot and a half in length. Appendages had been torn so much of their prey to pieces, sliced clean through the flying pig's skull. Place. Pigs' bodies were sliced perfectly in half. Head to tail, the pig's ends became alligator jaws and clamped down the grinning man's arms. Bringing tips to shoulders, they were swallowed whole. That's all it took to rob the man of control over his entire body. The shiver of fear. Were no mere pig familiars. And he realized that these were stapler monsters disguised as mere pigs.
捕まえたのはダムでした。
捕まえたのは D だってば。
ああ、でも残念。ご主人様は無口で無情で無関心。
結局どっちの手柄も同じこと。
London Bridge is broken down, broken down, broken down.
possible. It's not possible. Not possible. Pocket pigs for one thing. Irish charmed off was in the realm of occupational hazard. And instead, the wood was developed a dense wave of magic. Vexing, it was still impressive. Attacks in particular are extraordinary. Their familiars with bizarre attacks, a sheer innate magical energy to overwhelm others. He experiences all these things. His employer was skilled enough to achieve all of this as well. However,
どうするいつまで放置手足一本まばたきだって贅沢だお支払いは面倒でもできればポンドでお願いします
creatures, beings powered by magic circuits. Even though his arms were bitten, none of his body would move. Bound or weakened. Look become words written in the book, fated to keep through their page. Training figures formities indicated he'd overcome numerous curiosities and monstrosities. Illusions of thrallment, compulsions, freezings, putrefactions, even petrifications of power granted only the pinnacle of mystic eyes. For poisons to magecraft, he had weathered a great deal. This is something different altogether. The penalty that bound him now was based on different principles from blood, flesh, oxygen, or heat. Without a restraint that followed no rules he knew. Indeed, though I was terrified to admit, he encountered something alien to everything in this world. Fangs sank into left and right shoulder. First time in his form, he felt rage seethe up inside him. Basis of all things had to be absolute. All mystics, all things bizarre, obeyed some set of laws. These figures ignored this along with his dignity.
3日で衰弱6日で溺死半年経てば惨めな骸骨でもご無礼面倒だから今殺そうか
Ow. But he had no voice, he let out an exasperated scream.
なんて便利自分の腕を外せる機構おお前こそ三国一のものの不要
Dr. Pigs fell into the stream. Exasperated scream was the sound of the figure tearing his arms from their sockets. Almost he rushed the girl. Stupid. He lost his mangled arms, but the objective of his malice. Mystic eye to pierce the heart of its victim. Magic circuit designed to stop a beating heart. It was beautiful in simplicity. Courage was the equivalent of an unavoidable shotgun blast. But, tragically, that eye was all he had. Got to realize their song had changed. For the giant, the earth-shattering strike was akin to the act of shooting away an instinct. Rain-verdant arm veins pulsed. Oaken bar covered its body, hardened sufficient centuries for pulling in a chainsaw. On its forehead described all manner of colors as the word Emeth. Spelling. Description was purely decorative. Famed troll. By the moniker Falling Down. Alternatively, the Grey Bridge. Married to different forms, this was the first of 4 miracles. On the girl's word. Roots rent deep into the earth and raised his left arm to the heavens without moving a step. Also in the forest, the figure had chosen to flee the battles, running through the night forest at full speed. Important providing a detailed description of the enemy. The orders assigned to him. Put all his energy to escape this force with which he had become. Submerged the plans for one to challenge the enemy, the other to make a tactical retreat in order to report to their master. Dash through the forest. A grip by fear is common to his ability to perform the mission he was designed for. Attachments. The wolves could have tried. Like legs thumped as it kicked the ground. Its creators' eccentric taste that dictated their form and optimizing them for running. Wingman can reach a maximum speed of 45 miles per hour. Fast little inventing bipedal creature. Great distance several miles to turn around to confirm his safety. Pressure-shaped mouth, eyes, slackened. Scene 4, one time he looked up to lock eyes with his doom.
London Bridge is broken down, broken down, broken down.
Distance you could hear the dark rhymes of Mother Goose. Countless vines extended from the ground. From the monstrosity that conjured up the image of an arched bridge with a giant arm.
London Bridge is broken down, my fair lady.
最終報告。生還は困難。解析は困難。転送は困難。状況を終了します。はあ。主よ。どうか。
済んだよね。お疲れ様。戻ってテムズ。次はもっと高価な場所ならいいのだけど。
So. They made it so that set up shop in the woods were unlimited. Which isn't whether they've been good or evil, nor how many victims they had claimed. The shackles of civic society held no sway over her. The way of her pure-blooded witch, the way of her mindster.
僕たちはねえ僕たちは
この腕抜けないんだけど
噛んだままだと僕らも動けないっていうかさ。
ひどい飛べない豚に用はないと
次はお役に立ちますきっと。生まれてこの方失敗続きの僕らだけど。
壊れるまでに一度くらいは褒められたいね。
The girl out outside stepped into the stream. She removed her gloves and dipped her slender fingers into
6の目は出すなって言うけど6の目しか出ないようになってるわよね、あなたたち。
response to her melancholy tone. Placed the once boisterous pigs were 2 black dice, now sitting in the palm of her hand. The girl was about to say something that scattered remains around her. She realized something that made her put her hand in her mouth.
お別れは済ませていたわね。目ぐらいは聞いておくべきだったかしら。
Pale fingers traced her lips as if her looking far from them. Then again, she calmly left the dark woods the same way she had entered. That's real. Let's rewind to a moment in the recent past. The scene took place on Saturday morning in early December. They appeared over just before lunch. The only activity that remained before Scholastic Day ended was homeroom. 2 classy students, Sojo Suzuki and Hosoka Kinomi, were standing outside on the balcony overlooking the schoolyard. Like waiting for the homeroom teacher, Mr. Suzuki Yoshiro did not leave until he arrived. Classmates are chatting idly in the classroom. Class A's Tobiara Tsukiji was killing time alongside them. The listless trio discussed their weekend plans to lean on the veranda's railing.
木の実はベアでアルバイトか？
バッカ、誰が日曜まで働くかってよな。明日はほら B 組の子たちと遊びに行く予定だったんだけどな。なんかうちから出られねえ。
それはつまりまた振られたのか？
Thank you, Sono-G.
うわ、直撃！言いづらいことをまっすぐ言うよね、しずきくんってば。
そりゃ毎日てめえのバカ面見てればひよこだって振られるって言葉を覚えるだろうよ。自滅するのは勝手だけどな。
Don't be mean to
くれ
Sono-G.
ぐれもその字に変な遊び教えんなよ。
あ？そりゃ殿下の方じゃねえの。気ぃつけろよ、しずき。築地はマジで腹黒いからよ。こいつの頭の中はほら、あれ、ゴミ捨て場の張り紙？あんな感じだから、くっきり使えるもんと使えないもん分けてんだよ。
ああ、それは知ってる。
I know, I know.
ところで唐突に思ったんだが、飛び丸の中じゃ木の実はどういう扱いなんだ？
そうだな。粗大ゴミ回収は金でももらわねえと割り合わなくなるんじゃねえか。国が無料で回収するのはそろそろおしまいってとこ。
はあ？何言ってんのお前。使い古しのタンスとか高く売れるじゃん。俺みたいな開封即使用みたいな男がこれからのトレンドなわけでしょ。ほら、コンビニで売ってる使い捨てカメラとか大人気だし、ようやく流行が俺の消費文明に追いついたと。
じゃあ木の実はバイトと。
The Konami's working this
飛び
weekend.
丸は？
来るからね、ちゃんと俺の時代。
Poor Konami.
俺はちょい仕様だ。親父の客が来てるんで接待しなきゃならん。街の案内をしてくれとさ。
聞けよ、人の話聞けよ。あのよ、俺は妹の相手してやるだけなんだよ。隣のクソ中華飯店の手伝いなんかしねえよ。
その字は明日もバイトか？
いや、それが一日空いてる。今日はこれから遊園地でアルバイトだけど。
それって魔のキッズイランド？
Magic Kitsy Land.
そう
Oh.
だね、しずき。あそこのバイトは重工部の連中でも値を上げるって話じゃんか。
なんと、まさか猫黒の荷物運びより辛い。
いや、あそこまではよく。しかし山城の野郎おっせえな。見ろ、隣の B 組すらお帰りになられてるぞ。
だな、仕方ねえ。面倒だが呼んでくるか。その字を遅刻させるわけにはいかねえし。
In the moment, Tobiara Tsukiji stepped wearily from the balcony railing. Bassist of Chime rang.
2年 C 組の静木宗十郎くん、山城先生がお呼びです。至急職員室まで来てください。
Oh no!
繰り返します。2年 C 組の
Awkward silence fell upon the three. For a long 5 seconds, Soder said goodbye and headed back inside.
面白いことねえな。誰か校庭にミステリーサークルとか作ってくんねえかな。
Naomi grumbled, slouching his shoulders and succumbing to his.
他人の妄想力に期待すんなよ。刺激が欲しいならてめえでイベントを起こせ。ほら、クラス分け発表の時よろしく。青崎に突っかかる。
Engage her on the field of debate. This will go over well.
蘇るトラウマやだよ。会長の大立ち回りは面白いのを通り越して恐ろしいよ。善良な一男子生徒としちゃ美少女が転校してくるだけでいいんだよ。まあ普通の子じゃつまんないからハリウッドのプロデューサーとかイギリスの歌姫とか。
You know your expectations are out the fuck.
どんなくくりだそりゃ。そこは火星のお姫様あたりにしとけよ。
Tell me more, what the fuck?
それと2年 C 組の皆さんへ山城先生から伝言です。山城先生は訳あってホームルームを欠席しますので、各自勝手に下校しちゃってくださいね。それ以上、放送室からお知らせしました。
どうよこれ。山城新車買ってからフリーダムすぎね。このままではあの真新しいセルビアに俺のギザ銃がうなりかねん。
鍵穴にガム程度にしとけ。教師の発給はマジ登場に値するからな。
State of the education system. No, don't key the car. Just put gum in his. Oh man, come on. They already have to pay a lot. You don't get paid enough. You friends returned to the classroom, complaining all the while. Except for the mutual friend summoned the faculty room, out of mind.
納得いきません。生徒のアルバイトは認められています。学校公認の職場であるなら社会経験の一環として推奨すると校則にもありますが。
そうなんだけどね。彼の場合やりすぎなのが問題なわけで、仮にもし認可していない労働基準法に反してそうなところで働いてたら困るでしょ。うちも彼も。
I mean, yeah, you gotta have a normal-ish side cast to balance out all the spectacular main cast. If you want to phrase it like that. You need anchors to bring it down to earth. Side cast does most of the time. Volatile tension between the ruthless student council president and the easygoing modern language teacher permeated the room. Trying to be spared from the impeding confrontation, the other teachers hurriedly relocated to the meeting room. By the time Mr. Yamashiro noticed this, the only other person in the room was the student council president, Aoko Aozaki.
逃げたか。ひどいなみんな。怖いのは僕に押し付けてばっかりだもんな。
話の続きです、先生。仮に彼が指定以外のアルバイトをしているとしたら、それは彼の要求に学校側が答えていないからではありませんか？下宿先の家賃を奨学金で賄えとは言いませんが、時間の許す限り働きたいという要望は考慮すべきです。
It is funny seeing like Aoko go to bat for his son. She's like, no, let him work, let him work.
疑うのなら、まず働き先は1生徒につき1件だけという規則を改めてください。
Around realizing there was no way she would back down, Mr. Yamashiro hung his head. It's supposed to be easy. Parents call him the student room, working multiple jobs, confirm whether the room is true, and if so, give him warnings and guidance, then head to lunch with the knowledge that all was right with the world. The student council president, who was coincidentally in the faculty room at the time, had heard the entire issue and decided to call out this injustice. As far as Mr. Yamashiro was concerned, she was in the right, and he was well aware of the aforementioned student situation. Personally, he would have liked to help, but among the faculty, he was just a new kid on the block. Stay on the vice principal's good side, and at the very least, not lose his job as badly paid as it was.
こればかりはね。副教頭先生直々の注意なんで、僕も助けてあげられないんだよ。
それでしたら、落としどころがあればいいんですね。
ん？
Student council president removed the document from her bag. The document had been brought up in the morning's faculty meeting, and a host of tags with it.
青崎くん、それは。
はい。間協会のボランティア参加の申告書。
We're sending Sono-G to church! She's gonna find God!
今月も希望者ゼロですね。 敬虔なクリスチャンである副教頭先生はさぞお気を悪くしているかと。我が校の生徒には新人が足りんと今朝も嘆かれていたとか。
そうだけど、どうして君が今朝の職員会議の内容を知っているか聞きたいよ、本当。
Hi, how'd you get that information? Yoshio scratched his head, but his eyes were smiling gleefully. He figured out the student council president's objective.
魚心あれば水心ありですか。教会への奉仕活動はボランティアだけど、きちんと謝礼が出る。あれも形の上では学校側が推奨する社会見学だからね。
What do you mean? Good substitutes. I don't know. Depends on localization team. I guess it's just how it goes. Both of them have just one of them's the faster way of getting is like one is like, what do you mean? It's just it depends on who's saying it and whether or not it's like, oh, if it's like laid back enough conversation, like probably good enough. It's like an adult or like somebody who's like not on the up and up is going like, what do you mean? It basically, it gets reflects like whether or not like how much knowledge the person saying it has, the character was saying it has. So it varies.
参加者が出たことに喜び、加えて
その参加希望者がすでに他のアルバイトについていた場合、学校側の認可が2つになっちゃいますね。前例にしてはいい落としどころだと思いますが。
Naruto raised his hands in surrender. They refused to stand with the both raised a complaint and proposed a proper solution. It was a big sisterly disposition that made this girl so simultaneously feared yet trusted.
よし、その方向で攻めてみよう。うまくいくよう祈ってくれよ。
他力本願は嫌いです。悪巧みに乗ってくれるのならきちんと活躍してください、山城先生。
Well, student council president turned to leave the faculty.
ああ、待った待った。君も残るんだ。今からしずきくんを呼ぶから、ちゃんと面倒見てもらわないと。
は
Those cool eyes narrowed. The process which she had just heard, her expression turned to a scowl.
いや、参加希望者は一人より二人の方がいいだろう。青崎くんがフォローしてくれるなら、僕も安心だしね。
ちょっと先生。
ああ、放送室2年 C 組のしずき宗十郎くん、至急職員室に来てください。で、放送お願いします。
だから先
生いやー、これで万全だ。まさか頭痛の種が同時に消え去るなんて、今日はついてる。
This man is gonna die.
ああ、けど青崎くん、ずいぶん親身になってくれるんだね。何？もしかしてああいうのがタイプ？
You're courting death, man.
ついでに生徒会長が心からお待ちしていますと付け足してー。
って山城
Good. Next day at Pleasant. The girl was awake 2 hours before the time he was supposed to meet her. Getting up, he decided to go for a leisurely jog to clear his mind. Plus, among his sullen thoughts, his 30-minute jog turned into almost an hour. Upon realizing, he rushed home. Before racking his brain on what to wear for the occasion, he decided to wear his school uniform.
午前10時、三崎中央公園の東入り口で待ち合わせ。
Faculty room. After Aozaki had showed the time and place with them that day, she said it was such pain on her face. If she was fighting a headache at the time.
しかし、青崎の風邪は治っているのだろうか。
Kojiro muttered, his words of concern misguided as they were. Casey waited for about 5 minutes. 10 o'clock, the Steel Council president appeared.
おはよう。いつものことだけど、時間だけはぴったりよね、あなた。 ひどい顔ね。もしかして気分悪いの？
いや、体調はいいと思う。
Wait off for
だがしかし、青崎は制服だった。
ええ、学校の行事だもの。当然でしょ。
Heavy weight of despondency fell upon Sojiro's shoulders. The angst sing over his outfit for the previous 2 hours had been rendered meaningless just like that. The duo, clad in their school uniforms on a day off, walked by the train station. Beginning, Aoko had made efforts to give her a thorough lay of the land, but today she only showed the bare minimum of the expected. This is partly because, surprisingly, Sojiro had become well accustomed to the town. Restaurants were good, with short pets fresh. And why the nearby bicycle shop was better than the department store by the station if you want to buy a bicycle. But no. The other reason was that at dawn and alcohol, with the two of them, first thing might look like passerby.
話は変わるけど、具体的にどんな労働内容なのか、そろそろ聞いていいかな。
Your mom volunteering at the church meant the school would tolerate his multiple jobs. But I quickly agreed to this tempting offer, nodding like a bobblehead. As that was typical of him, he had failed to consider the content of the proposal.
まあ、そんなことだろうと覚悟はしてたけど。
I had a feeling you just say yes.
あなた、間協会は初めて？
教会なら2回目だ。珍しい建物なんで近寄ったら、中の人がタダでお菓子を。
Like a lost child. Connor with all sincerity how exactly a church worked. Contemplative posture made him appear to be the part of a philosopher, but after all his thinking, I guess they start taking your money on the second visit. Oh, Sono-G. Such is the extent of Sojiro's concern.
普通そういうことは子供にしかしないんだけどね、あの教会は。
Aoko sighed the lost little lamb.
で、どんな人に会ったの？神父？それともシスター？
それは綺麗な女の人だった。
じゃあゆいかさんの方ね。今日会ったらお礼をって必要ないか。あんたのことだからそのあたりはきちっとしてるだろうし。仕事の話なら簡単よ。学校でやってることと変わらないから。あの教会、規模の割に人数が少ないのよ。
Aoko picked up her face as they headed for the getting the wrong button. Though she seemed like a general invading enemy territory, he made Sojiro furrow his brows in discomfort. The church had a long history. From the station was a white painted sanctuary nestled between business and residential. As far as Aoko could remember, the church she knew as now was the result of a remodeling done 8 years prior. It was practically a cathedral for a town of this size. And located next to was Aozaki City General Hospital. In fact, it seemed awful suspicious for a church to take up residence next to a location in the city where the most lives were lost. The only two were aware of this pain were a roommate, Aozaki, and the priest. Sometimes faith, religion, and then mages, they do not go hand in hand. Rarely do they go hand in hand.
青崎はこの教会に縁がある。
One side, blasphemy is a lot.
私はこれっぽっちも。もう過去に戻って改ざんしたいぐらいみじんもないけど、うちの父と祖父は長い付き合い。ここの手伝いなんて、忌々しいことに小学生の頃は毎日してたもんだけど。
It's part of those fucking youth groups, man. They sucked. The more Aoko spoke, the more twisted her expression became. Finally, this made her want to grab it by the proverbial collar, give it the proverbial one-arm judo back throw, smash its proverbial head into the proverbial ground, and kick the proverbial living daylights out of its defensive proverbial torso. Yeah, Aoko, sure, man. This was so-called trauma that with her anthropomorphized, it would take more than a 5-round beating to satisfy her thirst for vengeance. In this moment that as he became part aware of Aoko's mood, Sojiro began to fear for his safety. Perhaps tracked by the noisy murder of crows outside a church, women and nuns have emerged from the front entrance.
失礼ですが、どちらのお客様でしょう。当教会は暴力団関係の方はご遠慮いただいておりますので、日を改める、あるいは生き方を悔い改めた後、社会的な罪を償ってから門をくぐっていただきたいのですが。青崎青子です。シスターユイカ。
ユイカ。
まあ、青子さんでしたか。驚きました。昼間のうちにあなたが来るのは久しぶりです。そうですね。いつもは夜に呼ばれて神父様とだけお話をしていますから、ユイカさんとは。まあ意外ですね。1年近くまともにお話をしていません。
God, the words are dripping with venom.
ま、この先だって一度もないでしょうけど。ええ。あなたも随分と立派になられたようで、がっかりです。何より、今の気配は清らかな少女とは思えないほど悪辣でした。
He doesn't know. This clueless man. Like, I'm just here. On the surface, to exchange congenial greetings. With routine lines, all Sojo could see were two good friends.
今月のボランティアは私とそこの彼です。親愛なる間協会のためですから、10時から3時まで1分の狂いもなくきっかり働かせていただきますわ。まあ、世も末ですが歓迎しますね。神の家は万人に等しく開くもの。この際、あなたの内面は見なかったことにしておきましょう。
Some flash of style, those equal parts elegant and cruel. Appearance aside, she seemed overjoyed to have able hands to put to work. She introduced herself to Yuka Suze and thanked Sojiro, who had volunteered of his own volition. Noticed that her eyes were always shut, but not wanting to be rude, especially in front of Aoko, he decided not to pry.
しずきさんとおっしゃるのですね。声のイメージ通り、落ち着いたお名前です。
はあ、それはどうも。
Let's slip a frown Sojour's ambivalent response to her compliment.
失礼。名字で呼ばれるのはお嫌いのようですね。宗十郎さんでよろしいですか？
宗十郎さん。
え？いや、どっちでもいいですけど。
ではそのように。ほんと、難儀なことですね。
The sister's tone was gentle, words seemed somewhat indifferent. She got excited, but she guided the two with certainty in her step.
それで、奉仕の内容ですが。分かってます。クリスマス前だし、面倒な掃除を済ませておきたいんでしょ？問題ありません。そういうの得意ですから。
Their strong suit as much as Sojiro's.
では、青子さんはかまどの方で聖兵の作り置きを、しずきさんは外に、私どもでは手の届かない箇所の清掃をお願いします。ちょっと待って、台所にリツカのやついないでしょうね。こんなところであんなのに会うなんてごめんだから。
Woman, you with her? Don't do
リ
it.
ツカは留守です。ですので、どうぞ気兼ねなく。
So waved Aoko head toward the door in the back of the work. She indicated she was quite accustomed to this church.
しずきさんはこちらに。まずは物置から清掃道具を運んでいただきます。
Broken church of Sojo was now requiring a particular skill, was cleaning at its most standard.
窓を全部拭けばいいんですね。
水拭きと空拭き、その後にコートスプレーもお願いします。はしごの高さは足りますか？
あれ、ちょっと足りないっぽいですね。
では届く範囲で結構ですので、よろしくお願いします。
Strange returned to Treasure began to wonder if it was out of distrust in him that she was being so curt. He understood it was too soon to glean answers from the first, and such answers always eluded Sojourner. Left alone but no less encouraged, Sojourner began to clean the windows. Out of fact. The day's weather was a disappointment once again. Not going so far as to rain, but it was too overcast to enjoy the sun. Then gets this tall ladder and begin with a window about 5 yards from the ground quietly. Never the kind of person to mind physical labor. In fact, if there had been blue skies, it would have been a perfect day for him. By the time he finished his third or fourth window, he felt very relaxed and began to whistle. He was intimidating height and provided a wonderful view at the same time. During a turn to town, gave Sojourner a clear view of the treetop tail that had previously by.
やっぱり林の中に家があるような。
It's fucking The hill in the woods just outside of town. Here the forest overlooking the sleepless city looked like a foreign castle.
あれ、なになに、泥棒さん？
Then, thoughts of wiping windows, Sojourner was pulled out of his trance by someone below him. Looked down and saw a girl, her unkempt clothes otherwise contrasting with her kind visage.
でもちょっと怪盗には似合わないのんびり屋さん風味。どっちかっていうとあれかしら。暖炉から現れてる微妙にいらないおもちゃを押し付けるセイントみたいな。
Saint Nicholas, Saint Sojourner. It's a weird kind of thing where, in Japan, because of Shintoism and everything, it's like Western religion outside of its domain is like a lot more like romanticized with, whereas in the States, Lamau, lol. A little bit sacrilegious, a little bit. We don't like the religion that much. Or if we do, it's the other side that likes it way too much.
うわぁ、私あのヒゲ苦手なのよね。だってどう見ても不法侵入者じゃないあの人。
Looked to be in her late 20s. At the cold, she was not wearing a coat, she had no purse either, which was rather strange as a woman at first when they were far apart. Now that Sojourner knew this truth yet. Based on the fact that none of this seemed to apply to her, one could have realized that she was herself a little... A few cards short of that one might also say.
あ、私ピンときたわ。君、ミサコのバイトの子？偉いわ。今時の高校生は業者さん顔負けなのね。
The girl looked up in admiration at Sojourner, who stood atop his ladder.
よーし、私も手伝っちゃおうかな。はしごはまだある？他の雑巾は？どうせだからホースで水をかけるのはどうかしら。こうバーッと。
She is a little bit ditzy.
バチ当たりだけど、それなら少しぐらいは楽しくなりそうじゃない？
The girl let out a hearty laugh. Her smile glowed like a cactus that sprouted legs and began to run about. Inasmuch as running a cactus could only cause trouble. Sojourner anticipated the girl beginning to clean without waiting for his approval.
いえ、教会の前を通ったら人影っぽいのが窓にへばりついてるのが見えちゃったの。昼間っから泥棒とか豪快だなってちょっと興
If
味
it is,
惹か
it's
れちゃって。
very serious. Or it's usually the butt end of a joke. Too extreme. It's not really shown as much through a normal lens. That's maybe biased in the media I watch, but
そしたら可愛い子が真面目に労働してたわけ。窓拭きの達人みたいにビッとかっこよく。そんなの見せられたら手伝いたくなるのが人情じゃない？
Rubbing the window next to Sojourner, the girl continued to chatter cheerfully. This is all kinds of suspicious. Sojourner politely followed her lead, nodding and agreeing as she spoke. Perhaps it was an instinctive camaraderie. Since this girl was just like she's just like me for real, for real. I was getting the short end of the stick when it comes to menial work.
あなたは教会の人なんですか？
私いえ、ただの通りすがりよ。それより、あなたってのは他人行儀ね。君とは商店街で何度も会ってるのに。
いや、会ってませんよ。
会ってます。君、魚達さんでバイトしてる子でしょ？今週だけでも何度か言ってるの。
Yeah, this girl wanted some Chinese bad.
私はそうね、花沢って言うんだけど、君の名前は
Hanazawa took a quick glance at the flower bed below introduction, then gave him a friendly laugh. Clear self-introduction, however, was his usual brand of awkward.
宗十郎さん。いい名前ね、古風な感じで。名前に数字が入ってると、なんか日本人って感じがしない？
She's such a
ここ
dork.
の神父さんとかシスターの名前知ってる？エイリとかユイカとか、なんか外国風なんだけど。
エイリさんはともかく、ユイカさんは綺麗な黒髪の女の人でしたよ。
あら、神父さんにはまだ会っていないのね。相田教会の美形神父と美人姉妹って言ったら有名なんだけど。あ、そうか。さては君、最近引っ越してきたんでしょう。しかも一人暮らしと見たわ。
そうですけど、花沢さんすごいですね。さっきからあまりにも的確な発言です。
Yeah, huh?
いえいえ、推理と言ってくれたまえ。
Isn't it?
君ぐらいの子がアルバイトに精を出すほど、この町の娯楽は魅力的じゃないもの。遊ぶお金ならバイト一件で賄えちゃうわ。君は物欲のあるタイプじゃなさそうだし。となると、これはもう生活費のためと考えるのが健全でしょ？まあ学生さんが生活費も学費も自分だけで
It is still fucked up. Like, still doesn't cry.
いや、そうでもないですよ。働かざる者、食うべからずです。
そっか。宗十郎さんは若いのに立派ね。私も学生の頃はバイト三昧だったから、少しは君の大変さもわかるわよ。
なんと、花沢さんも一人暮らしだったんですか？
ええ。親の反対を押し切って、よその国に留学しちゃったの。あっちには友達もいたから下宿先には困らなかったけど、さすがに食費ぐらいは稼がないとね。けどまあ、こう見えて肉体労働は苦にならないタイプだし、学院もバイトも楽しい思い出になってるわ。
Oh. Sojourner nodded agreeably. Just like me for. Didn't fight or not, he could barely hold back the sense of solidarity that was welling up within him.
これも何かの縁だし、魚達さんではこれからお世話になりそうだし、頼りないだろうけど、相談事があったらぜひ言ってね。精神面で力になるわ。
ありがとうございます。じゃあ早速ですけど、ここは何をするところなんでしょう？
What's a church do? As Sojourner said here, he pointed at the church.
えっと
Even Hanazawa was taken back by his question. Under Sojourner's provincial background, combined with her quickly nature, Hanazawa mistook his question for some kind of sophisticated wit.
そうね。
I was like, the mystery is like, what the fuck?
心の安全を扱っているというのはどうかしら。いえ、安全というよりは鎧？継ぎはぎのバリケード？とにかく本人はちっとも鍛えられないってことは同じよね。
Thanks, Hanazawa.
あとはパンとワインも分けてくれるわね。
無料でですか？
もちろん。止めるものは勝手に置いていくって話。あとは、そっか、これが一番大きいんだけど、収入に税金がかからない。心の安全は扱いが難しいけど、きちんと売り物にできればノーリスクハイリターンよ。
This is gonna come back to Aoko somehow. She's gonna be like, what the fuck? Who taught you this?
よくわからないですけど、ピンチの時はここに転がり込めばいいんですね。
それはおすすめしないな。ご利用は月に1回、気休め程度にした方がいいと思う。
Eric squeaked as a carefree soul wiped down the windows. As they went, they shined up one window, then another, and then.
そうだ、もう一つあります。ここから見えるあの森、何ですか？
森？あの山の上にある森のこと？
ですけど、
Those bushy eyebrows.
丘というべきです。
Someone raised in the countryside, soldiers probably would not allow for a mound of dirt to be called a mountain.
そう？あれはあれで結構登るのに体力使うんだけど。ま、そっちの方がよりらしいわね。
As if a shadow fell over till now sunny disposition. She was undoubtedly a beautiful woman, with very lovely features. Upon her in that moment, her smile melted away and he saw how disturbed she was at his comment. Down to it.
あれは丘です。それとほら、ここから煙突みたいなの見えますけど、あれ
It's
は何ですか？
definitely a hill. Soldier was not one to closely watch people's reactions and fuss over his
あ
speech.
れは本物の煙突よ。あの森は全部私有地なんだけど、その中にでっかい洋館が建っているの。でも私有地だから地元の人間も入ったことはないんじゃないかしら。通称クオンジのお化け屋敷ってね。近所の皆さんは気味悪がってるし、あんまり近寄らない方がいいんじゃない？あんな小さな森なのに遭難したとか野犬が出るとか物騒な話には事書かないから。
野犬って、都会にも野犬？
たくさんいるわよ。この教会の裏手の空き地にだっているし、ここの神父さんは物好きだからパンとかあげちゃって、それで
Free
赤
dogs!
ちゃんの人体力になっちゃってるんでしょうけど。
Love some free dogs.
とにかく君子危うきに近寄らずよ。あの森には入らないのが町のルールなの。そもそも私有地だし、入ったらおまわりさんを呼ばれちゃって、そのまま交番でお説教タイムなんてあんまり楽しくないでしょ。
Soldier not long to her story as he stared at the far off chimney from his vantage point on the ladder. Patty part of him was curious about that hill because it reminded him of the woods where he grew up. However, praying himself that it was none of his business, he continued to window. Psycho. Anyway. Sounds out laying a hand, they were able to finish the job without a hitch. The two of them, they accomplished simple but very time-consuming.
はい、ご苦労様でした。あれだけ砂まみれだった窓が見違えたわね。
Job well done.
どう？これから適当なサテンでお茶にしない？宗十郎さんの仕事っぷりに敬意を表して、私が
はい、何か言いました？花沢さん。
いや、ごめんなさい。休養を思い出しちゃった。
As I got a little bit too familiar with
花沢さんは
Sojiro.
ここで失礼するのでした。チャオ。
How? Sojiro, who had started putting away the ladder, turned around and he was only to catch a glimpse of the girl's figure dashing towards the street at lightning speed. Or 3 o'clock. When 3 hours had passed since I was out and I offered to help. Sojiro watched the girl with many strange faces disappear. So it seemed to have been an aimless walk. Kanazawa had spent a good deal of time with him. Maybe Sojiro reminded her of something she needed to do.
しずきくん、そっちにいるの？
Council President popped her head out from the corner of the church.
あ、声かけてごめん。いいから作業に専念。
Sojiro putting away a ladder taller than himself seemed to have provoked an emotional response in Aoko. Then, in an instant, she rolled up her sleeves and began to approach him. Surprised him more than Aoko's sudden appearance. Sojiro's bewilderment, Aoko promptly began issuing orders.
はしご、横に倒していいわよ。下の方は私が持つから、あなたは上の方をお願い。
But all this so matter-of-factly that Sojiro began lowering the ladder before he had a chance to do it by himself. Clark finished the sisters' stanky gifts in hand. The two put the church behind them. Aoko apparently had something to do around the station. They decided to walk together until they got there.
でも本当にアルバイト慣れしてるのね。
The orange-tinged sky. Aoko spoke more as though she was expressing her thoughts out loud than striking up a conversation.
そうか。青崎から見てそうなら少しは嬉しいな。
Fisher gave her an earnest smile. Again, he had been beaming ever since he received his pay, so the source of his joy was not so clear.
あのね、あなたは普段が問題ばっかりなんだから、あんまり調子に乗らないように。差し引きゼロっていうか、まだまだマイナスなんだから。
Yes.
学校のことは言われると悲しくなる。
Probably go hunting for the G's tomorrow. Fisher hung his head dejectedly. His job had been going well, school was still a bust. Exams were one thing, but even classwork was something he had found himself falling behind in.
青崎は成績悪いやつは嫌いか？
まあ、頭というか巡りの悪い人との話は疲れるでしょうね。でも、あなたはそれ以前だし、そもそも私にはこれっぽっちも関係ないし。でっかいハンデを何とかするのは先生たちの仕事で、それに応えるのはあなたの役目。アルバイトもいいけど、帰ったらきちんと予習やっときなさいよ。
それはもちろん。学校の人たちはみんないい人だ。
そうならいいけど、みんないい人
Aoko cocked her at the one side, unsure how this exchange had resulted in their response. He decided to interpret as Socho simply expressing his gratitude in his own peculiar way. The old adages are fucking her up.
ところで参考までに聞くんだけど、あなた他にどんなバイトしてるの？
どこって商店街が多い。魚のお店とか花の店とか。あ、でも昨日は隣町まで遠出したな。遊園地のアルバイト。
So many jobs. The only school authorized locations were in Misaki shopping districts. The response was much as she expected. That is, except for the decidedly unexpected last part.
遊園地ってヤシラギの？
そう。使わなくなった看板とかオブジェとか解体して運び出したんだ。さすがに疲れたな、あれは。
へえ、うん、それは体力勝負でしょうね。
Aoko rather impressed. Transporting an amusement park machinery was not a job that students did willingly in their free time.
でもいいな。私、キッズイランドって一度も行ったことないの。三崎町に住んでるのに。
Aoko looked in the direction of the neighboring town. Barely make out the Ferris wheel. Round steel frame of the wheel, illuminated by the sunset as it was from Gravestone.
そうか。それは金銭的な理由で。
It's because you're broke. Did I watch it? I watched parts of it. A couple of episodes, but I've read up to where it like ended. Beyond that, I've got to stifle her laughter. It would be rude to Sojiro to burst out laughing, but the remark tickled her funny bone.
そういうんじゃなくて、単純にあれが開園してから立て込んでて遊びに行く暇がなかっただけよ。お金で解決する問題だったらそれこそ今すぐに言ってるわ。
Aoko showed Sojiro the envelope that contained the pay from the church. There's nothing sinister about her remark and gesture, but the fact that she did not jump at the cheek. Oh, made Sojiro sad.
それなら今度行けばいいじゃないか。
ありがとう。けどそれは無理な話。あんたのことだから気づいていないと思うけど、あれ潰れてるのよ。 肺炎になってからもう2年以上は経つんじゃない？
なんと
Anto. No wonder there were customers all the time he was there. That's where she was a Sojiro, the student council president, seemed to be enjoying herself. She'd be yelling things at Sojiro like, know that, but this evening, this one and only evening, she found it charming. Our ways, Sojiro returned home to his apartment, immersed himself in the studies before he knew it was time to go to work. Single throwaway line. It's cute. Ah yes, Kittyland, all referenced all the way in America. Major cultural difference, still certain at one point difference. In country was used to time. It didn't matter which part of the city was in, time flowed far too quickly. A drop of knowledge from his textbooks, he put them away the day before hanging. Deeper as he turned him to Mars. So to reverse his collar to protect him and began to make his way. Will be seen, no dog scratching for food. There be. Eating store in the area closed at 11 o'clock. Ojiro with the jack. Trip. Energy had to take a deep breath. Landmarks lined the deserted street. Fluorescent light brighter than the stars above illuminated the dark. An unconscious sense of anxiety stirred within him.
情けない夜が怖いのは当たり前じゃないか
Still crept up his spine as he attempted to mask his weakness. Out of the dark. Away from deserted places. There was some deeper reason, perhaps the fact that he looked so helpless. What he meant in his life seemed to warn him with those words.
そうは言ってもしょうがないし大体
What does that even mean, stay out of the dark? The city was without light. Bustling train stations or remote residential areas was illuminated with artificial light. Scary was scary, but this kind of fear was a kind of different sort than we. Like a source of his fears, the fact that this place was governed by starkly different rules. The meted out justice was terribly imbalanced. Provincial Sojiro, his lack of familiarity with the laws of the land terrified him far more than the dark. Mountain retribution came swiftly to those who broke them. Game Cho, for example, when musically trespassing the animal kingdom's domain would, as a matter of course, be savaged by the native wildlife. Accordingly, in Sojiro's mind, an offender paid the price for one's mistakes immediately. Not a matter of who punished whom, it was simply that one who broke the rules, tangible retribution. But that in this regard, the laws of the city were far too ambiguous. As never knowing whether one was in the right or wrong.
けど基本的には変わらないんだよな多分
Belief retribution was delayed. Take the analogy a step further, back home in his village, no individual had been given the possibility of maintaining order. In the city, however, someone was put in charge of punishing half the kind. While crime punishment in the mountains were synonymous, in the city the two were separated. The person brought judgment after the crime had been committed. Places that must not be entered. Breaking law that consequences, someone would come to exact justice for the law that was broken. Well, this was at the stage where the city was not sticking nose in the affairs of others. If Sojiro told him to stay away, they probably meant, if you don't, nobody will help you.
といけないまた近道しそうになった
Obstacles were, one could not just climb over a neighbor's fence, even one's apartment was just on the other side. People inside would be awake and call the police, so we left a hand to help him. Shortcut. Let's just go into everybody's property. Sky view of the city, Sojiro once again into his day in peace. Fall asleep right away, he gazed out his window upon the night sky over his apartment. He escaped a cause of trouble and fear when he first moved here. Means to solving almost any problem with the flip of a switch, not with you while away from complete stranger appeared in the night sky when he looked
こ
up.
んな空もあるのか。
Consciously recalled his own. Here there were no starry nights. Arrive here, the misgivings. His first night continued. Eyelids fell shut. Always fraught with worry, Sojour's body felt the fatigue of his work studies. Alright, that's 1.5 done. Now we can continue on proper. Nights. Just simply skip from one night to another, it's fine. Events of the yesterday trans. Moonless nights, you must never look back. Lesson, or was it a warning? So very long ago, time I could not imagine what I, very being, would become. Night came without warning. Anxiety so heightened they made me want to burst into tears, so I fled to my grandfather's. Grandfather I knew, he smiled and kindly places. Yes, the Red Death follows me. It's only me sent me home with only those haunting words. I was certain I sensed a shadow working. Someone was watching far. A little, year after year. The presence almost felt like a spot on the horizon, grew so close I could feel its breath down the base. Of course, it was all in my mind. Around, nobody was there. That night marked the beginning. So I later understood that the indescribable anxiety I felt was the dread of certain death. Time has passed since that night. You're deep in the recesses of my mind were childhood memories. Faded storybook-esque memory. Nights I still hear the faint. How strong the wind may howl, or how entrancing the song of the girl next to me by his ominous words.
ご到着ね。
Beside me said. Alice's inflectionless voice spoke volumes of a rule. That there was one. That would mark the birth as to who I am today. It would have been quite the memorable night, it sure wasn't a promising start. Clouds blocked the starlight above like a black. Yeah, the grandpa was made, so he's an asshole. Strong wind towards the sky, carrying the heavy clouds with it. Hands of the clock in the middle of the park pointed skyward as if reaching. Tonight there was no moon to point at. Air grew fiercer as the night wore on. The yelling felt as though it would freeze me from the inside. Bone threatening to pass up my spine directly to my brain. My mind from being paralyzed. And my fingertips becoming stone. Fire using my internal rhythm and
触覚を譲るわ。幸運ね。あの位置なら刻んでおいたウィスプが止まる。
also the night. Then for just on the ground. Legs quivered ever so faintly. So if they were shaking from the cold, I wasn't so sure. Yeah, they may not have been numbed by the cold, but by fear. By relief. Packed my Aoko. My own sentimentality, the sensations from the bound field almost into me. The apparent wall covered the entire park. As well carpet rooted deep underneath the earth. Chants of Mother Goose fairy tales permeated the night. They just became one with my body. Circuits. Felt goosebumps on my quivering right arm. Let's pass. My right arm like ant. This surely made inroads for my heart. I drove the mount away from the reach and defend. Not enough to lift the darkness. Far from where I am, they reached me very hard. Without the aid of my sense of sight, I could see the darkness. Starboard in the bushes about 30 steps back and off, beckoning. Its movement and my perception of it were in lockstep. Went around. I was stretched out like a spear. Weapon aimed at the back of my head, brushed my hair at breakneck speed. Omniscient awareness granted by Alice's ward, I managed to avoid by the skin of my hair fanned through the air from the violence of the attack. I grazed my cheek and I felt a small, sharp pain. Felt like the kiss of death. Pushed the flow of my body's blood to a different state. Blood running through my veins for a few feet per second changed me into an imaginary element. My body became stricken and my heart transformed into complete. The core representation of it, complex it is, made me stir an unknowable motion of immeasurable heat. Also much more complex than fuck. The mystic yet untapped by humanity that made me who I am. Our life beyond I know miracles and fables. You just call them magical. Turned around, set the enemy sights, and held up one hand. My arm was the agent of my will. Experienced my major ability possible through actions and gestures. Magical fulminae were engraved all over the park. Ignite them. Direct the flow of the magical energy from my body to each. Typically, mage acts as a conduit, but wired and wireless, the mage simply pours magical energy into the formula. Energy in the form of projectile, stream, or any number of other methods we device, but in my case, feeling my limbs whipping out. About the speed of speed. Garmixon or became engulfed in flames. Entered the park, the same remnants of the campfire, but one in which a central figure wriggled out of puppet. So I just had ignited. Crackling, no burning smell.
結界返すわ。死体を確認するから。
Telling this to Alice, I headed towards the motionless figure. Killed it. Killed it. One was, I just took someone. Arch. I saw the truth that without the sense of reality, it would have been helpful. Ooh. I ain't swallowing. Christ. So hard and bitter, impossible to swallow, but I tried to anyway. Calm, my heart pounded, my breath felt heavily, but mine felt nonetheless. The chart remains already in front of me. Counterattack, I carefully examined the corpse. Fine, this body slumped lying around was nothing but ash. In with its remains didn't smell organic. I took a step closer to the corpse's face. Screaming was the features of my face of a man. Screaming, I kicked him in. The corpse crumbled to ash and disappeared with the wind. Puppet, and for all our efforts to master out, they once tricked by familiar. Being my first test out in the open would postpone for another.
いつになったら一人前にって。あれ?
Moment, I suddenly noticed something familiar. Strange about the side of the other end of the park. The shadow were larger than it should be. I a battle? That's what it was. Oh yeah, it was a mistake. From my voice, the figure wearing a familiar high school uniform took a step back and broke into a sprint, running for their life. He was doing exactly that. Or she shouted at my partner, but she hadn't even noticed the third party's presence in the first. First thing, the fight had taken more on me than I would have liked. Gotta kill him. Time for nicety. Us being seen here is a matter of life and death. Pick off the numbness of my legs and made for the park's exit. Myers escaped. For the entire night's proceedings, it disappeared into the darkness of the residential district. Felt like a damn ghost. Someone bring back the figure in uniform. I read my own incompetence. Yes. Temporarily, the park had become Alice's woods. Other park goes identifiable features. Voices became murky like fairy tales. Not a witness, but if our identities are still hidden, still a chance. Returned to the park. One was without a doubt from my high school. Cool enough. If you pull me to mind, I had plenty of methods to flush him out. By grumbling, I set my priorities straight. As rumors spread, I need to seal the witness's mouth shut. Highest priority: kill him without mercy. Looking up, I saw Alice's previously distant figure. Just as much trouble as I was with an mage also exposed. Alice. Statue-like figure staring into darkness seemed expressionless than calm. Pissed off, her inscrutable voice resembled the moonless night so much that it made me angry. That was a quick man. Okay. There isn't any other way of saying this. I'm a magician. Like those witches and fairy tales, alone in the woods and miracles of the way. However, the picture of it differs from reality is closer than you know. So just so we're clear, no, I don't fly through the sky on a broom. Transform into animals or speak with birds. Or mages or nothing so. It sounds unbelievable, but we're quite grounded. Anything, we're actually majorly constrained. Alice. And I still have a lot to learn about. This is my real job. A lot more romantic than being a high school student, right? Actually, this is a secret I don't just share with anyone. Mages do everything in their power to conceal it. First and most important of the association's 10 laws. Not that I'm tempted to let the cat out of the bag, at least. Secret dignity is an honor student is intact, and absolutely no good would come at me revealing. And then it'll only lead to more headaches. I do everything in my power to keep it as. If I'd accomplished anything as a magician by now. My secret life's work to a single special person when I finally make something of myself. Yeah, I'd really be pretty stoked to confess. Just confess one day. By the way, I'm a magician. I know that real shit. I'm on that Fire 4 shit. The idea alone is enough to keep spoiling the big reveal, regardless of the association. Grandfather patted me on the head when I shared these thoughts with him. Whether that was praise or what, but I remember that his touch was gentle. For certain that I'd be succeeding my grandfather on the day I graduated middle. There he was. Both then journey for the state north, you're the heir to the Aozaki. Backed way. Neither the Aozaki family passed down this old tradition of magecraft, but to be honest, I never imagined I would be the one. Magecraft was supposed to be passed down to a single child. My sister's ruled to take the mantle. Dedicated myself to so many rules and finally live a normal life. I had hopes and dreams for the future. Bad for my sister, but I was determined to live life my own. After a time, I was blindsided by a vicious counterpart. I've been thrust headlong into the world I'd only observed. Boy, to start high school. It's not all that bad, all things happens and stuff. The days of this newfound life, that year of school motored right by. Before I knew it. Nothing this drastic has happened. Nate and I totally try to kill each other, notwithstanding. Happens I've got a natural talent this magic. Yet to have any hang-ups there either. So I had to. So I've had my fair share of headaches for sure, but never once did I worry about my future. My life would be smooth sailing all the way. Only everything had gone to plan.
どう
Aoki the second she entered. I succeeded with voice failed communication. I took off her unflattering coat, hung it on the higher, and sat down. Sat across from her for the table, separating them.
そっちは
よくないわね。偵察に行けるのは7個くらい。ここのところ使ってばかりで作り置きをする余裕もなかったし。
Gazed her from Aoko to the box and
あの夜町を監視していたやつはいないの？町の偵察は完璧なんでしょそいつら。
それは昼間の話よ。夜間飛行は危険が多いわ。
Hero of the least. Most. Aoko sighed.
そういうあなたは朝は随分と強気だったけど。
ああ、こっちは予定通りよ。明日までには絞り込めると思う。今朝、飛び丸にうちの生徒の自宅と行動時間を調べさせたから。あの時間に公園をうろつくやつはめったにいないし、簡単に割り出せる。
そう簡単に行くの？
行くわよ。伊達に生徒会に勤めてないわ。その程度のデータは揃えてある。
Blackmailing
月
everybody.
1のバイト先はおろか、親しい友人宅との移動時間、その優先順位まで調べ上げてるんだから。人には見せたくなかったリストだけど、そんな余裕ないでしょ。だから、そういうのが向いてる副会長にやらせたの。
Suddenly, the creation of the secret file started the moment Aoko became president. Remember its existence was enough to strike fear to the entire student body.
そう。徹底しているわね。
I was only mildly surprised. It's been almost 2 years since they first started living together. Was anyone that Aoko put her mind through the
ま、私もあれがこんな風に役立つとは思ってもみなかったけど。ほんと、備えあれば憂いなしとはこのことね。
What happened last night was far beyond the mere exception to the rule. Not been possible.
それより、原因は分かったの？結界の結びに不手際があったなんてのは聞かないわよ。
The war was Alice's responsibility. Blamed for last night's trouble, Alice had to own up to her fair share. Aoko may have been roommates and partners, but it was a relationship that brought them together. They were more like enemies than allies. But they were just not a match. There was a plunder, it was punished. Opening, it would be attacked. There's even an opportunity. Two of them would kill each other in the event of such. Alice locked eyes with Aoko. His gaze could make a grown man cower in fear, but Alice did not bat an eyelash.
仮の話だけど、 あの結界に落ち度があったのなら、今まで何度もこういう状況になっていたでしょうね。
Right, Aoko agreed. Question reaffirmed her trust in Alice.
結界のあり方は完璧だったのね。
絶対とまでは断言はできないけど。
Answered as flatly as ever. Mountain feels like a sanctuary sealed away from the real world. Taken whereby a certain area is cut off from the outside world. Various kinds of bounded feel. Ones that close off an area wall, and less tangible ones that use mirrors, mists, or trees to conceal that will occur. Off an area to the outside world, you cannot avoid community abnormalities' existence. In other words, the area may be closed off the outside world, but it is impossible to hide the fact that it is closed. Sometimes don't take interest in the sealed off area, even if they cannot see what is going inside. Some might say to split the cart before the horse. The ideal field would be one that was both undetectable and impervious to interference inside. That was exactly the con that Alice had generated in the park.
その場所に用があっても、今はないように思わせれば、誰もそこには立ち入らない。
Yeah, when the OC looks to kick in, it's nice.
隠したい場所の周りに一時的な意識の改ざんを促す結界を張る。手間はかかるんだけど、1時間程度の人よけには信頼性は高い結界よね。アリスの鏡を使った一級品だし、途中で破れることもない。事実、入ってきたのはあの人形だけだとはっきり感じられた。これで完璧じゃなかったら何が完璧なの？
Violence.
私もわからない。森作りに落ち度はなかったわ。森は数日かけて栽培したものだし、今まで通り信頼できる結界よ。けど例外があったのなら、どこかで見落としがあったのね。
I think they reused this for the Mihoyo collab in FG. Though Alice's words could see the familiar eyes expressed her comment that she had overlooked nothing.
参った。こうなると一番いいのはあいつが人形使いだってパターンね。それならかろうじて納得できる。問題は侵入した時の違和感をどうやって消したかってことだけど。
That being targeted by this individual is pretty terrifying. But to penetrate Alice's field would only mean that their skill in magecraft is superior to Alice's. They would be complete.
その線はないわ。
Mage.
彼は部外者よ。ムクドリはともかく、ロビンが後をたどれなかったもの。魔力の気配は全くなし。誰かの魔術で操られている犠牲者というのもないわね。
Aoko was quickly across the grasp. Out of questions to ask. He was call it bad luck and leave it.
魔術師の秘密を見られて、おまけに目撃者を逃がしたか。普通の高校生の悩みじゃないな。
Oh, if only I could be. Sofa groaned as she leaned back. Round ceiling with a sigh. Much of a view, she was becoming increasingly
青
depressed.
子、覚悟を決めておいて。
Her maid's voice seemed indifferent. Aoko just kept staring up at the wood.
それとも、あなたにできないのなら、私が言ってあげてもいいけど。
Girl's statement carried an equally icy implication. Aoko took the words and slowly with much sincerity she could muster. Transform lead.
そうだ。覚悟なんて、もう決めたでしょ。
Thought sounded hollow even as it popped into her head. Clearly different from last time. And was indeed the same. The circumstances surrounding her target were clearly different before, but that was as a mage. Or she would kill them. Challenge, she would step up and fight. If it was a fight between two mages and her opponent was in the wrong, this could only be death of one of them as an outcome that both accept. Kill. Well, I had no weight on the scale. Mages don't have morals. That was different. I was neither an enemy or a mage. Prepare to kill them, this horse was not likely to die. Riley did fact into it. So if the task of murdering an innocent person, well, the fact that this was a common occurrence for me, snorted sardonically. Does that mean that Aoko was some kind of monk who would cut ties with the real world on a whim? Aoko hated. A conviction or understanding of exactly what she acted, she preferred to act decisively.
やるしかないだろうね。
Instead, she got up from the sofa, having her fill of the ceiling from. Aoko returned to the alcove always, and Alice was done.
じゃあこれ
Order, Alice produces into the palm of her hand. Wait, cyanide. The bottle looked completely out of place in her slender fingers. Cloudy and appeared empty. The paper remained on the front where there was once a label.
何よそれ。
Aoko stared at the bottle suspiciously.
収納の小瓶ちょうど一つ余ってたからあげるわ。
はい。
名前は忘れたけど中国の小説に出てきたのと同じよ。
Aoko was miraculously able to parse what Alice meant.
それってレンゲ堂の兄弟の話？じゃああの赤いひょうたんと同じなわけ？言いたくないけどそこら辺の風邪薬のラベルを無理やり剥がして小瓶に見せかけてるそれが？
Alice looked at the bottle and acknowledged how ordinary it looked. That she would not be the one using it as she set it on the table.
赤いひょうたんじゃなくて陽子玉の上瓶の方。
わ。
そういう問題じゃない。私は魔術師としての雰囲気を論じてるんだ。
些細なことを気にするのね。せいろがんの瓶じゃないだけいいと思うけど。
You had a good point.
蓋を開けて相手の名前を尋ねればいいから。ただし相手に抵抗する意志が残っている場合、小瓶は割れるから気をつけて。
Raise her eyebrows.
ちょっと待った。抵抗する意志があるとダメって眠っている時にやれってこと？
それは試したことがなかったわ。
I have admittedly not used this magic before.
眠っているのに返事をする人っているの？
たまにいるけど。まあ確かに珍しいわね、そういう人。
Case one would have to weaken them until they were about to pass out.
ああ、そうそう。薬や魔術がかかっていると、その重さでも割れるから気をつけて。
Treasure Mage card also costs a buck.
使えない。それってほとんど役立たずってことじゃない。
それは青子次第ね。
Turned away, she replied. Talk no longer mattered.
はあ、アリスがこういう小道具好きなのは知ってたけどね。これも趣味なわけ
Of course, nobody else would deny it.
多分。
Maybe.
それでどうするの？持っていくのか行かないのか。
Answering Aoko did it a bit before taking the bottle and putting it in her. First, maybe I'll find some use for it. Got myself a little bit. Hours had passed, and the clock struck. Moved from the drawing room to the sunroom and manifested in the moment I expected such. A pot!
まあ本当はね、飛び丸に任せる気はなかったんだけど。
Pot. Our earthworm pot sat on the table. Aoko spat out complaints to no one in particular. She plucked food. Traditional Japanese meal that looked out of place in this man. Japanese hot pot where all one had to do was buy and boil ingredients. It was usually Aoko's or something. Alice sat across from Aoko. She silently poked the pot with a fork.
山城のやつが来るなり、 しずきくんはまだ部活に入っていないから面倒見てあげてくれないかななんて言ってくるもんだからさ。全校生徒の行動範囲なんて見直す気力なくなっちゃったのよ。
Look was as silky as a baby's bottom, so she fell for the shirataki noodle.
そりゃあのバカがバイトで忙しいのは知ってるわよ。
Hold on. Oh, we're gonna get it again, but I gotta see the slap away.
だからできるだけ春先までのんびりしてて、あんなのでも親身になってくれそうな部の部長に当たってみたのに、ありがとうの一つもないってのはちょっと尺に触るわよね。ねえ、聞いてるアリス。
Her mouth was full, she simply nodded in response. Questions say that she had no interest or opinion in the matter, but at least satisfied, Aoko nibbled on some handpins.
それに私、いい人なんて言われるやつは信用できないのよ。あろうことか、飛び丸までそんなこと口走る始末だし。あれはいい人なんじゃなくて、ただぼんやりしてるだけなんだっての。だいたいあそこまで言われて怒りもしないなんてどうかしてるわ。
Her thoughts went to what had happened in the council room earlier that day. How now in response to Soju had been to her work. Her face alone was enough for her to swallow the rest of her handpan without chewing it.
何が分かってるんだなよ。
The chops. Hers were a lot like those that ended her childhood.
青子ちゃんは分かっているんだね。それでも自分であり続けられるということはとても強いことなんだよ。
But it's just Japanese hot pot. Got eggs on the side. She meant it as a compliment, but she took it as a patronizing way. Not a mollusk? No. The person who said it had acted like she.
ま、あんな変態の言ってたことなんて今さらどうでもいいけどさ。
What might have made her most confused she had ever been in her life. What shocked young Aoko the most was the look of pity on her face and the person she admired the most. It's pretty sure it's just.
喧嘩。
It's a little bit hard to tell. Stopped in her tracks.
ごめん、聞いてなかった。喧嘩ってあの喧嘩？
Got it.
あなたの感想だけじゃ状況はよくつかめないけど。つまり、青子はその人に喧嘩を売りたかったのね。
I was bitten to the very last handpan. Remark was unexpected but completely on point.
なんでそうなるのよ。私はあんなのと1秒だって関わりたくないだけだってば。だいたいそれどころじゃないし、興味とか全くないし、
So soon.
会話もこれ以上ないってぐらい簡潔に切り上げたし。
なら、どうして今そんな話をするの？
Keep yapping about him.
え、それはあんたに今日の調査過程を知らせてあげたのよ。それ以外何があるっていうの？
Another reason could also be suggesting Aoko had for bringing it. Several hours later in bed, Aoko realized that she had dug her own grave. Yeah, because Alice was. Listen, Alice, because of her Western background, why was she get your chopsticks?
私は別に。ただ、青子は本当にその人が嫌いなの？
Made her hot pot and sounds as if she was honoring some sort of sacred ritual. Her face was as different as always, but she was secretly enjoying how flustered Aoko was. I remained oblivious to this. She would notice immediately, but she was not quite herself at the moment.
本当にって、そりゃそうよ。気に食わないって何度も言ってるじゃない。
そう。
Work.
具体的には？
は？具体的にはって、そんなのに理由なんて。
Well, she finally realized how disagreeable she was being. Come with no reason why. Instincts had told her that she was incompatible with that hick. Hotpot's great. Fun. It's also really simple. You just need, like, some broth, and then just a bunch of shit that you want to put in the hot pot. That's it. It's a really simple concept. And then if you want to refill the broth, you just pour hot water back into it. Strong reaction. I think the world Aoko hated motions for that reason and made decisions. No.
嫌いなものは嫌いなんだから、ちゃんとどっかに理由があるんだと思うけど。
Became more flustered the more she talked. Fortunately for her, she could not come up with a coherent reason to hate. His fault that he had zero common sense. It was the fault of the environment he grew up in. In fact, it was admirable that he was trying so hard to adapt to civilized society. He was not complete with his face. So it was only because his gentle nature compelled him to think before acting. One looked at everything objectively. She was loath to admit it, he really was unassuming, do-gooder everyone had pegged him as.
ちょっと本気勝手の人間的に悪いところ、本当にみじんもないのかあれ。
Plenty, so she left it at that. Chopstick she began using came to a stop. Very annoyed. Rational hatred burned through her head. And it would look out in terms of her feelings, she just really tried to analyze Sojo, but her mind only went in more circles. House fixed Aoko with a deadpan stare.
呆れた。
Bye.
らしくないわね、青子。
Final blow. Aoko felt the floor fall out from under her. Unable to leave her chair until long after Alice had finished. However, and knocked down, Aozaki was not want to be kept that way. Very short work cleaning up after dinner, and after conceding the first bath of the night to Alice, left the drawing room. Often leaving areas of the house, the drawing room, the two girls. Darkness. Part of the east wing along the long corridor, illuminated by the light of the moon.
結論として、やっぱり騙し討ちは気に食わない。
Doing this on the way down to the corridor, perhaps ever since she left the drawing room. Into her room, she drew a proverbial line in the sand.
やるにしても隠れるのはなし。正面から堂々と向かい合って理由を言う。
Especially driven by feelings of sympathy or compassion. Or this is simply the way things are.
よし、そうと決まれば。
So she headed to the study next door.
木曜棚の当時欄、緑の背拍子と。
They just removed one book. Countless volumes on the shelf. Transport here from the Aozaki residence were separated into 6 shelves, labeled Monday to Saturday. How could organize the books by topic, genre, and purpose? More or less memorize exactly what was. Referencing any of this material took her no time at all. Expect from the keeper of the study. Chief Temple was nothing more than a small room. Without Alice had given up all hope on the cluttered mess of a library in the annex. Thus, on occasion, Aoko would have no option to give Alice a heads up if visiting.
できればそれは避けたいところだけど、と。
Thick green book down and took a seat. Shadow was sturdy but uninviting. It was the sort of furniture girls her age grew attached to, which left its bit of elegance the torn pages.
アリスみたいな結界は私にはまだ無理だ。人払いはその場所自体に頼らないといけないか。
Building at night. Replace it that will be except for the luck avoided people, allowing you to forgo the use of
茨の壁だの魔力の霧だの、そういう回りくどいのもなんだしな。退路を断つっていうなら、もっとこう見た目にも状況的にも派手な方が効果的だし。
But saying that she was looking for a way to deal with the wood tonight. Magecraft's uses were many, but not all encompassing. Fundamentally, Magecraft was good for making phenomena that exist already, while more or less bypassing the time required. It was, however, unable to manifest phenomena that were impossible in this world. Essentially, the equivalent exchange used a variety of shortcuts. Phenomena made possible by human hands actualized by an power that was generally by magic. It's not like I'm gonna accidentally say Magecraft and just be like, oh, this is the power of turning your rage into magic. To give a simple example, if Aoko were so inclined, she could make an entire like this mansion. Only exists in this world. Nothing that even the smallest matter could escape. Even if Aoko were to release the level of heat on par with fighter jet's afterburner, that event will only be possible with a circuit named Aoko. Aozaki acts as a temporary input variable in the magic formula. Derived equivalence was simply a value that are recurrent reality. Variable in the equation that exists elsewhere in reality, the spell would not be valid. Imaginary element known as magical energy was like a fly that could only or the non-existent, and creating reality was something that he
とは言っても、エーテルは基本何にでもできるんで、大元が嘘なんだっけ。魔力だけで構成されたものは幻想扱いされて急速に消えていくとか、典型的な結界、茨の壁とかはもともと茨を生やしておいて魔力で一気に成長強化してるものだし、魔力っていうのは結局使い勝手のいいガソリン兼事象に火をつける火花ってわけで。
Oh, math.
なんて言いつつ
Head empty. Knowledge did not stick in.
架空要素云々より基本的な回路の接続と魔力を加工して弾くことぐらいしかできないのよね、私。
Having herself, she looked for a battlefield. Still unknown if they were a classmate of Aoko, she had any number of pretexts, but one was after that.
そうなると問題は命中率よね。一撃で決めないと逃げられちゃうだろうし。
Now that she wasn't confident she could handle the smooth spells support, Aoko saw no reason to ask her help. Her in question was a regular bystander. But she had still her pride as a maid. Turning to the pages. Fluttering sound thumbling through the volume, Aoko suddenly stopped her finger at a certain page.
見つけた。
A simple formula that she had tucked away somewhere in the recess. Spell simple destruction.
檻をね、作ればいいのよ。狩りをする時の常套手段じゃない。獲物を逃げられないようにするのは。
Cardboard box and a stick. She placed the bookmark in the book, closed it, and got up to return. In the night, a girl staring back with a cool. Hers, the expression undoubtedly her own. Began planning on how to erase the witness. Page and lure her brain.
さ、そろそろアリスは上がったかな。
I was at the bathroom. Minutes have passed. First, I was then to bathe quickly, finishing well under 10. to understand the spirit of the bath training. For Alice, the custom of staying at a hot spring inn sounded more like a chore than anything. The guard Aoko had to LMAO, LMAO, LMAO.
よし、浴場はカラッと。あれ、今に電気ついてる？
Needed for Alice to sit in the drawing room after her bath. And nothing to discuss was her style to return directly to her bedroom.
アリス、いるの？
And it appears Alice had been waiting for Aoko.
そういうこと。私も信用ないな、ほんと。
Aoko scratched her head in exasperation. Alice was worried about her or had no faith in her. But she was so calm, Aoko could hardly figure out what she was thinking.
方針なら決まったけど、聞く？
その顔を見れば聞かなくてもわかるわ。迷いがなくなったのはいいことだけど、悪い癖ね、青子。
Alice let out a small sigh. Alice makes a display her disappointment.
ええ、騙し討ちは趣味じゃないから。殺すにしても正々堂々、正面から理由を言った後にする。それならすっぱり後腐れもないし、文句ある？
文句はないわ。そういうの、好きか嫌いかはこの際関係ないでしょうし。けど、
確実性はどうかってことでしょ？私、いまいち命中率悪いし、その辺の問題は場所選びでフォローしようかなと。私はアリスのようにはいかないから、物理的に逃げられない場所にしようと思うんだけど、何かアイディアない？
Nodded in thought. Good generous in her lips.
鏡はどう？鏡の国なら永遠に閉じ込めていられるけど。
That's right, we're gonna put them in Kamen Rider Yuki? Fucking Agito. Well, I will always mix up those three. In my mind, so I cannot delineate the three. One of them, put him in the mirror dimension. Fuck it.
あんた、そういうところ常識ないわよね。
Idea? Found Alice's bad taste. An idea her roommate found to be inspired, but Aoko knew it was out of the question. Looking for a natural battlefield she could repair, not a realm. True magic she couldn't create to begin with. It's like, way out of my grasp, Alice, please.
なら他を当たるのね。でも、ここを使うのだけはやめてちょうだい。
Don't bring me.
言われなくても分かってるって。けど、そうね。ミラーハウスはいいアイディアかも。
Like a specter shifted her balance away from the wall she was resting on.
サンキュー、アリス。全体の流れは出来上がったわ。ほんと、こういうのってダメ元でも相談してみるものよね。
Good mood, Aoko retreated from a drawing room door. Hello. I was trying to fail to visualize what kind of blueprint drawn up in her mind, but what it was, it appeared to be a thorough kind Aoko was good. Aoko headed for the bathroom and left as she went. After sharing a living space, I thought Alice something. It's after the park scene. Yeah, the park scene short. This deliberating on killing a man long. When Aozaki was in this good of a mood, only deep trouble could follow.
え？青子一人に任せていいのかですって。
Formation. It was unclear how long the bird had been in the drawing room. Alice, the robin-like bird, pranced across the furniture as if it were property.
そうね。彼女が一人でやると言ったのだから、任せるのが正しい信頼関係なんでしょうけど。
Boone Black raised her arm. The bird chirping once again and lighted on her outstretched, affectionate finger.
嫌な話だけど、信頼と信用は また違う話よね。
Or puffed out his stout chest in agreement. Aoko was none the wiser to remain rather unsettling. At the schoolyard, schooling, throwing cards. Following day was a typically overcast. Classes ended as they had started. The break was just around the corner, and with it, final exams. Though Misaki High prided itself on discipline, it was still a private school which was from independence. Had a place to explore outside of themselves under the guardianship of the student council. Going students could spend their time after school as they wished, as long as they were mindful of. The fact that the poster boy of Dependence was the student council vice president indicated just how vast the spectrum was. But let's see. Yeah. You can either go up through here, or you can take the shortcut of the spiral staircase. It's a private institute.
Aozaki, いるか?
Sukishi threw open the door to the satellite student council room, the room location for their seat. Yeah, you can have one outside. It's metallic. You can weather the storms. There's a couple. I think there's a couple in Germany I've seen. Final appearances, he was a student council vice president, who also happened to be the poorest responsible for a person was waiting for him in the cramped room, crouching out. The council president, Aoko Aozaki, sat imperiously in a full-length shirt, glaring at Tobiano, his voice.
相変わらず寒いな、この部屋。なあ、今度ストーブ購入しようぜ。
Aoko suppressed the silence, Tobiano opened up some casual small talk.
お疲れ様。ところであんた、何しに来たのか分かってる？
まあな。ただ、事務的に話すのって寒いじゃねえか。
It is it's why you see like older districts and stuff.
少しぐらい世間話でもしねえとつまらねえだろ。
Everybody closed the door and sat down across the room, holding a blue envelope.
こういう時は無駄口は叩かない方がいいわよ。なんとなくプロっぽいでしょ。
なる。いや。
Tobiano was halfway to agree with Aoko before he caught himself beginning to shake his head. Tobiano enjoyed the lack of red tape in his new line of work. He was not ready to turn full spy on his first day on the job.
それで、調べ終わったの？
ああ、ついさっき最後の聴取を済ませてきた。詳しいことはその封筒に入ってる。お前から渡された例のファイルもそん中。
Tossed the envelope onto the table.
そう。
Aoko picked it up and began to scan through the documents that were inside. Around the little world, not sparing the slightest bit of attention for Toby. Knowing other people were a skill, she would be a master at it.
なあ。
何？
なあ。
一つ聞きたいんだけどよ。
だから何？
Reading without an ounce of emotion upon her face. However, it kept up an air of indifference, his stare remained fixed.
青崎、そういうの作って楽しい？
楽しいわけないでしょ。こんなの作ったところであんまり使う機会なんてないんだから。
そうか。ならいい。
He was convinced, Tobiano stood up from his chair with a dis-
最後まで読めばわかるだろうが、あんまり確証は取れなかったぜ。というより、おとといあの辺りにいた生徒はいないって話になりそうだ。まあ断定はできないけどな。
Tobiano headed toward the door. Theo was out of his hands.
と、そうだ。そういえば、一人だけ該当しなかったやつがいる。季節外れの転入生までは、 青崎も調べきれなかったみてえじゃねえか。
Raised her head ever so slightly. Right, the recent trash pursuit was not included within the scope of
そ
investigation.
んなわけで、その字に関しては調べてないぜ。ま、あいつならいつだろうと遅くまでバイトだろうが。いや、人殺しを見たなんてこと口走ってるようじゃ、家で悪い夢でも見てたのかもしれねえか。
Meanwhile, she really left the student council room. Oh. Simultaneously, Aoko felt her fingers go numb. The document she was holding spilled all over the table.
そんな、まさかね。
Broke out in a cold sweat and tried to tell herself that there must be some mistake. Feeling her gut would simply not go away, perhaps because her intuition is almost always right at times like
バカらしい。
do what she had to do. They had to kill Tobimaru if he had been there. They're fucking cold. Well, what was who she was thinking of? Considering the possibility caused her blood to run. Her forehead hands began to brood. Suddenly, faced with choice. Fool, the wicked sage, you cannot save both. You must pick one. That is freedom granted to you. Earlier, it was offered by her grandfather the day she replaced for his successor and led an asylum.
すごくバカみたい。
Question. It was no joke. This has never been. Aoko locked up the student council room and left for the day. What had happened, she greeted the students as they passed the hall, talked about how natural she seemed. Still plenty of students at the school. Chattering of students who had finished the day but had yet to head home. Others still had clubbing. Gray Sky looked ready to pour, but nobody seemed to pay any mind. Clamoring, Aoko hastened to the school gate. Passed by some students in animated conversation, talking about the after-school plan. They were adamant about maximizing their free time. Could not figure out how they could possibly be so irresponsibly focused on fun, but at the same time was in no mood to make fun or feel envious of them. 4 years prior, she'd been just like
目
them.
は覚めてるのかな、私って。
She retied her scarf, this time more tightly to give off solitude, but she was. I don't know what people with solitude really think of. I mean, it was intentional in the sense of like it would have been hard to get a hold of. It's just like, oh yeah, I probably want information on like the regulars because of like they're regulars. They all move around. Like this is the place where they haunt, or like this is the where they would normally be. The transfer student who does not know where everything is, or is like still finding a way through town, does not have any usual haunts and places, is like, yeah, I didn't account for him because it's probably likely it's not him because his randomness would not dictate it. It's too random. Not accustomed to such. All people who feign solitude are really masking his.
そうよね。孤独っていうのはああいうのを言うもんでしょうし。
The school gate was busy. Boys appeared to be huddled behind it. In terms of both the location and loudness of voices, nothing to that fact there were noises. Girl standing alone on either side. Oh hey Alice, what's up? Is she be? The girl was cloaked in black. Oh no, it's Tobimaru who brought it up. Because of just like She didn't really want to. She really was just like, there's no way the fucking newbie to the place would cause problems, especially with somebody like him. Just like there's, it'd be like way off the outside of expectations. Anyway, the girl was cloaked in black cape. Those glance could have been mistaken for normal attire, but those from Misaki considered girls' school. That school had no contention like high any way, shape, or form. The two schools were miles apart both physically and spiritually. Where the school student body was residing as the majority of force lived. The academy had a reputation for princesses, and it was a rare indeed for one slumming with the common folk. Ellen would have been enough to cause ruckus among the boys, but this girl enemy of the class. But describe the standing figure as charming. Silently, emotionally weighed, ridiculously. Took one look at her before instantly recalling the one word: solitude.
まったくうちの男子どもは家に帰りもせず陰でコソコソやってるのはそういうこと。
Rayan? I did not. Oh yeah, baby, it's drawing time! Who made the idea where it would be? Discuss it, Aoko barged at the gate. When she would normally head home, they should cross the street toward the waiting girl.
あれなるは生徒会長様。くそ、おっぱらう気なのかよ。痛いんならいつまでだっていさせてあげればいいじゃんか。
Everybody's sweet. Paradox, I did not. No. If that's probably the one. Is that the one where. Not Shiki. Fucking what's his name? Is that his high school?
てか怒られる？怒られるのあの天使。
Just gonna go to the person versus the angel. Oh.
よその生徒でも校門前にいるぐらいなら別に問題はないと思うけど。青子女子は容赦ねえからな。下手すると平手だぜ。
Boys ran their mouths behind her back. Good to shut them up, Aoko walked up to the girl and offered an informal wave.
どうしたのアリス？こんなところに来たって何も面白いことはないって言ったのに。
ありえねえ
For real? The boys by the gate lose their collective minds and did their burst to ignore them.
あのことを確かめに。青子、あの人たち邪魔なんだけど。
These people are annoying.
わかってる。今追っ払うから。
Precious to Alice's small voice, Aoko spoke loud and clear. Actually, this was on purpose so as to deal with the riffraff by the gate all at once.
会長こっち来んぞ。おい押すなよ。後ろのやつどけって。俺校舎に逃げるから。いやでもあの子会長と知り合いなんでしょ。うまく会長に紹介してもらうとか。さすが一年坊主。まだ戦場の現実ってもんを理解していねえ。よし、死の間際まで。
Dreams be dreams, it's your funeral. Alright, man, go take it. Yeah. Just a fun connection. Perhaps because too many of them had gathered in place, the mob entered a frenzied panic as they tried to escape. Aoko addressed them all.
さーて、部活動があるわけでもなし。ただ家に帰るだけの帰宅部の皆さん、こんなところで何を集まってるのか教えてくれる？
Match. The student council president stared daggers at the boys.
何しろ試験前だもの。身になることなら私も教えてほしいけど、まさかガン首並べて女学院のお嬢様を眺めてただけなんてことはないわよね。 声をかける勇気もなくて眺めてただけなんてことは。
One of them was brave enough to admit to hit the nail on the head. If they had such courage, they would have already been chatting the young lady up.
いや僕教室にちょっと忘れ物で
Owned, incredibly owned.
こんなオチならダメ元で玉砕しとくんだった。天文部に行って双眼鏡借りるのどうだ。屋上からお顔を賜るとか。天文部にそんなのねえよ。あるとしたら野鳥同好会じゃね。
それ先月会長が潰したじゃん。鳥めでてる暇があるなら彼女作れって。
ああ、彼女作れですか。すみませんっす。今日は裏口から帰るっす。ザキさん。くそ、じゃあな会長。また明日。
Those oh so charming remarks, the boys scattered with their tails between.
楽しそうね、青子。
あ、わかる？
I could tell. Aoko's responsibility dubbed all too easily. Truth, there are not that many bad apples, but Sakai dealing with them wasn't really that bad.
で、ここまで出向くってことは何か分かったの？
結界に残っていた気配の識別は、あとはここで確かめればいいだけよ。
そう。ん？アリス、いつからここに？
下校時刻から。
Roughly an hour. I would be taxing for someone sensitive to cold.
悪いわね、無理させて。
別に好きでやってることだから。
Spoke, her black eyes were fixed and the students passing through. They likely been observing the gate in this manner for the past
私
hour.
を待ってたわけじゃないんでしょ？今からでも付き合うわ。
Nodded in assent. Alice was still here and meant she had not found the witness yet. She had found the student, Alice had already gone home ahead of Aoko and began. Background.
私の方はダメだった。
Results of Tobimar's investigation, Alice remained silent. Conversation ended, leaving the two to silently endure the free. Takeout dragged on endlessly. Past the gate, each shocked at the sight of the unusual combo and headed home. Aoko let a sigh escape from her mouth, perhaps from boredom, perhaps from cold, perhaps from both.
ねえ、アリス。帰り黎明に寄ってかない？
Alice the catcher. I was thinking of Aoko's favorite coffee shops. So whether she was critical of Aoko's blasé attitude or into her whim, Alice's gaze shifted ever so slightly. Followed her stare.
あれ、青崎も待ち合わせか?
Then voice took her off guard. One person who spoke with his gentle, good-natured tone.
そう。やっぱそうなるわけか。
Back to Alice, Aoko moved her focus in.
それで、今日は何の用？
A plane flew out the window. In a bad mood, Aoko's mood plummeted the longer. Sojiro. Subtlety or expression ever was lost on him.
いや、これから駅前で水泳部の部長と待ち合わせなんだけど、そのことでお礼を言っておきたくて。
ん？
Thanks, Joy. I got a hunch she was about to say something brief.
ふーん。お礼ってお礼参りってこと？
Unfortunately, Sojiro was completely unaware of the more sinister implications of the word payback.
よくわからないけど、そんな大したことじゃないよ。ただ、水泳部は夏までそう忙しくないって話だったから。
Sojiro was about to thank her for recommending a club that would not take up much of his time when Aoko cut him off with an expression of dissent.
当然でしょ。幽霊部員になりそうな生徒なんて紹介できないから。忙しいあなたでも務まりそうな場所があったから口に出しただけよ。
なるほど、無駄がないね。
Love him so much. His open admiration for her sap Aoko's will to fight. Finding a suitable club and negotiating with its captain hadn't been an efficient use of her time at all.
とにかくお世話になったから、それで礼を言っときたくて。
Gratefully dipped his head, but not before the flustered Aoko stopped him.
よしてよ。今あなたにそんなことされても迷惑だから。それで、水泳部はどう？やっていけそう？
Ernest infiltrator appeased sharp gaze. Treasure was able to pick up on the odd change of behavior, but could not divine its reason. Okay, so they simply started with what he knew so far and reported the most recent had.
ああ、水泳部はクビになった。
Sojiro! No! This man.
なんでよ
Aoko instinctively shuddered at the unexpected response. Like a human jack in the box. The unexpected development threw her mind into tizzy, and she momentarily forgot the complicated feelings she'd been wrestled with.
だって今から待ち合わせだって。
それはこれからヤシロギの温水プールに連れて行ってくれるからだよ。
Could you say this very matter-of-factly to still really Aoko?
話がつながらない。そこまでうまくいってるのに、どうして入部を拒否されるのよ、あんたは。
そりゃ、俺が泳げないから。
That would do it! That would do it! That's because I can't swim. You know? She's vibrating again. Aoko reached up with her fingers and pinched the bridge of her nose as she proceeded to process his answer.
しずきくん、昨日の私の質問は覚えてる？走るのか泳ぐのか、どっちがいいかってやつ。私の記憶は正しいけど、一応確認しておくわね。あなた、確かに泳ぐ方だって言ったけど。
ああ、昔から泳げないのはなんとか克服したかったんだ。反対に走る方は得意だけど。
Her energy spent, Aoko finally understood.
俺が1年なら1から鍛えてくれたらしいんだけど。
Sono-G is a very pure individual who has lived in the mountains for his entire life. He's not an idiot. His interpretation is just different from everybody else.
あと3ヶ月で3年になる身分なのに。
And this especially hits Aoko harder than everybody.
けど部長が親身になってくれて、これから泳ぎを教えてくれることになったんだよ。
His words were spoken from a place of joy, a fact had failed to reach Aoko.
つまり欠陥品を売りつけたってわけか。こりゃ水泳部の部長に合わす顔がないと。ちょっと待った。しずきくん、水泳部の部長って。
Stopped herself short of a girl. She was afraid of how that might look, since she might not be able to rein herself in, and she started.
もういいわ。気持ちは分かったからどこか遠くにいてくれない？少し疲れてて、とてもじゃないけどあなたの相手はしていられないの。
I love him so much. It's like the phrase is the funny way. It's like Sojiro has a curse reflection innate. This is what NASA's earlier works was before like Fate Stay Night, if I recall. Listen, Olympus was in dire straits for after Runa to Olympus was dire. A little bit different, although actually I need to pull up the numbers. FGO did technically save Type Moon. Now that I think about it, timeline of events.
飛び丸もそんなことを言ってたな。 青崎は昨日と今日珍しく疲れてるって何かあったのか？
Runa's big white bunch. No, it didn't. No, literally, Runa took so long. It was such a money sink that if they didn't make like Limbus as the last shot to continuing the company, it was like, oh fuck. There was too much investiture in Runa for the ROI.
ちょっとね。でもいいの。解決したみたいだから。
Like, I'm glad they got Runa out, but I'm also glad they made Limbus so they could recuperate the costs from Runa.
それより、しずきくんはどう見える？私、そんなに疲れて見えるのかな？
Asking this. Learning out things for no reason on impulse. Not usual for Aoko. As she realized that this would be their last chance to have a normal conversation. A few moments of contemplation, Sojiro conjured up a grin that cut straight through the tension.
そうだな。疲れているというより生き生きしているように見える。仕方なく畑を耕していた狼が久しぶりに狩りに出ることになって機嫌を上げている感じだ。
Seems so cheerful. He was so happy for her. Without thinking, Aoko's hands went to her cheeks. Ways that were true that she was grinning from ear to ear. There was just no way she would have made such a mistake.
とにかくありがとう。じゃあ、また明日。
Perhaps still uncomfortable enough to wait to her, says goodbye with sincerity, his voice and smile, and took his leave.
待
Yeah,
って、
Sono-G's a good
こんな
boy.
話があるの。聞いてから言って。
Aoko called out after him. Told that she admonished herself for having somewhat affable earlier.
意味のない例え話よ。そうね。あなたが空腹で死にそうな時、目の前に同じように空腹で死にそうな2匹の動物がいるとするわ。しずきくんに銃をあげる。それでどちらかの動物を撃って。右はライオンで、左は子猫。選ぶのはあなたの自由だから。
Lives. The story's really good. There's only one issue with like Runa, and that's something I tend to like cut out. There's a fable-like moral, especially the way in which it was rather preachy. And if you thought too hard about it, you would never find an answer. Quickly and calmly.
いや、撃たないと思うよ。だって自分の好きにしていいんだろ。それにほら、空腹ならお互い様だ。
None the least phased by the dilemma. He had the most innocent response. So innocent, in fact, it would give anyone pause.
長生きするわ、あなた。
すごいセリフだな。そんなことを言われたのは多分君が初めてだ。
Adorning his face was a smile wholly out of sync with his.
何よそれ。
Regretted stopping him. If only she had just watched him go, this conversation would have never happened. Sojiro Suzuki made his way down the slopes. Today, just like every day, he probably worked late again. Aoko and Alice remained with Alice. Could simply been.
つくづくこっちのペースを乱してくれるわね。あの人畜無害の田舎者は。
Clenched her right fist as tightly as she cursed out loud. Anything to prevent herself from screaming at the top of her lungs. The scream be directed towards Sojiro or toward herself was another matter entirely. Aoko heard Alice's soft voice behind her. Aoko knew what she was going to say, as she had known for the entire time. Alice, having shown a reaction to India, changed her expression upon seeing Sojiro.
言わなくてもいい。あいつでしょ、目撃者は。
Voice was cold as ice. It was the voice of someone talking about a complete lion and the kitten. Shooting out of these animals. She asked him to choose one of them. In terms of risk, the lion was the more dangerous choice. Yet, the chance would fight back. The lion required more courage, but any sense of guilt that came from only a gun would be forgotten. These creatures, or excuse to shoot an animal, perhaps. What about the kitten, the weaker? saying the kid argued the two. Fighting to survive, it's sent us to get out. Aoko, Sujiro made that choice.
てっきり私もそうだと思ってた。
Make that choice. He's just shot no one. Very important. When she had felt a sinking feeling in the student council room, she ignored it. There's getting around which must be done, she told herself. Still, that is, Sojo wins, so he did, causing a favor. Stem from any guilt she may have felt. You care less for Sojiro. He was weak and he would be incredibly easy to deal with. Or she could not. Mr. Student moved to the city from the middle of nowhere with no family to speak of. Very compared to town. Tell him it'd be as simple as ringing. I'll serve, just piss her off. You're lucky, like everything was neatly handed to her. You want to just drop kick you right into orbit.
信じられない。私嫌がってる。これは違う。こんなの私じゃない。
Staying behind her, Alice heard all the muttering. Nevertheless, she seemed to ignore it and said,
彼、首に布を巻いていたわね。
wholly unrelated topic. Aoko returned to her senses.
首？ええ。水泳部の首とかけていたのかしら。
But onto this as if it had a deeper meaning to her.
そういえば、あいつ初めて会った時も首に布巻いてたっけ？襟を行儀よく締めてるから目立たないけど。
They shouldn't turn to idle nonsense. Though it solved none of her current problems, it did help calm Aoko's frazzled nerves.
サンキュー。落ち着いたわ、アリス。それと、気合も入った。善は急げ。あいつが言いふらす前に決着をつけよう。
When Aoko turned her back to the school. Now they retired to the mansion and prepare for battle.
いいけど、いつ、どこで彼を殺すの？
Alice is, yeah, not Alice. Aoko's interesting as a protagonist in the sense that she is just a character walking the very thin line between mage and normal, but always just like wavering in between the two worlds. Probably has to do with her discovering a mage, becoming a mage like 2 years ago. Always very much as she's just trying to comfort both sides. She wasn't grown up to be one, no. She was just in nearby mages. Because it was her sister. She doesn't have that mentality. She doesn't have the mentality, but she has the fortitude to try and be one. Phrase it like that. She's built up the virtues, for lack of a better term, of it. Say quietly so as to be heard by anyone else. Normally, Aoko had to rein in that side of Alice, but out in the open as they were, but this is far from a normal situation.
今日の夜、場所はとっておきの夢の国よ。
Laugh. Strangely pleasant sound like the kind one she would make when meeting a lover. That's the way of phrasing it. Neither of the witches won. Five. Girls' night. Secret resolution night. Suggest stopping here. Oh no. I will. Yeah. So, as somebody who's played the FGO event and saw Alice's first Noble Phantasm, LMAO, this is going to be heavy, so we'll pick it up on Thursday. If there was like an in between, I would have gone into it probably for a little bit, but the next one's going to be a doozy. Anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed. I forgot to put up the fucking poll in the stream. I'll deploy the poll, but for now I want to say we'll get to it next week for the Wednesday game. 4 hours. Oh. Rip and piss. Hey, he's getting more money. Money's good. I'm working 3 days this week. Happy 4th of July. Hey, the 4th of July pay, though, is gonna be nice. Yeah, it's... I guess it is. I had a feeling, but yeah. If only we could hear the voices. Damn. It's like, that's like a third shift. Not too weird. It's the weird evening shift. Could be worse. Could be net graveyard. But it does not help you. CG. Bird. The CGs of the fucking fork. Very funny. Yeah. I hope everybody enjoyed. We'll pick this up on Thursday. I might do what I could do for tomorrow, but yeah. Good night. Bye.